This is delightful. I'm so glad we came here. Feel those vibrations at Camp Video Games. Well, howdy there, campers. Welcome to Camp Video Games. This is Junior Counselor Sean, and with me is Junior Counselor Josh.
Hello, it's me, Junior Camp Counselor Josh, back from a long weekend hike with all the tweens in the camp, and all they would do is make fun of my bald spot. So my self-esteem's real low right now.
Those tweens are just brutal.
Oh my God, the meanest bunch of folks you'll ever meet.
I'm at that point in my life where I'm legitimately afraid of teenagers now.
Oh, they are mean.
Yeah, they're mean, and they've got like a better vocabulary than me at this point. I don't know. I always feel like kids are smarter than me, but then I like start actually talking to them, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ!
And everything I do is cap, and I don't know what to do about it, nor what that means.
I do not have Riz.
You know what I've got Riz for? Talking about video games and their adaptations to other media.
Shucks howdy.
Specifically, Final Fantasy VII. And I guess this is the end? We're going to reach the end. We're going to try.
This is the 8th discussion around the game. We, in last week's episode, discussed the anime Final Fantasy VII Last Order. Pretty good. If you want to hear our thoughts on that, go ahead and listen to it. Right now, though, we are picking back up in Final Fantasy VII, and gosh darn it, Tifa is in charge.
Yeah, I don't know who let that happen, but apparently we commandeered an airship, and everybody goes, I don't know, she's in charge.
Tifa's in charge, I guess, because she, it's like sometimes in like tribes, you know, the leader of the tribe. It's not like American politics where it's just like who's got the most money, who's blah blah blah. It's gonna be who's got the biggest boobs.
Oh yeah,
and then you're in charge.
Also American politics.
I wish,
depending on
Madam President,
constituency.
It is an honor to serve your boobs.
That's how you get your Bobarts and your Taylor Greens. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway. We're talking about Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, Tifa's been given in charge, and our next mission is to figure out where the heck Cloud might have washed up.
Where the heck is Cloud? Cloud fell into the live stream when the weapons emerged from the deep underground, as they also found out that Sephiroth was not Sephiroth, and Sephiroth's actually been Sephirothing underground as well in the Northern Crater. Listen back if you want to get the full recap. No cap.
Yeah. And Deep Underground is different than Deep Ground for the real Final Fantasy VII heads. Deep Ground is the place deep below Shinra headquarters where they keep failed experiments or something.
Is this a Rebirth thing?
It's a
remake, Rebirth?
I think a Dirge of Cerberus and remake Intergrade is where it's appeared.
Deep Ground.
It may be Rebirth. I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, okay.
I'm 75% of the way through.
Okay. Do you know how many hours you've put into that so far?
Oh God,
it's been about a month since the game came in.
I'm almost at 60. I put in almost a solid 24 hours per week since it's been out.
Proud of you, buddy. Proud of you.
Anyway, let's talk about this.
Yes. Okay. So Tifa is in charge, and you now have access to the high wind. So we get to just fly around willy-nilly, go almost everywhere, but not everywhere. There's a couple places that are still off limits, but we'll get there eventually. To find Cloud, you gotta wonder, where would Cloud end up if he was washed into the live stream? I took the party back to the Icicle Inn. That was the closest place to the Northern Crater area, to the Northern Crater. We'll call it the Northern Crater disaster. And in the Icicle Inn, you can talk to some bar patrons, and they'll mention Mediel. and that a big opening in the live stream had made itself known to them. So that was my breadcrumb. If I wasn't following my handy dandy official strategy guide by David Cassidy that I don't have today. I forgot. God. I didn't bring it to camp.
I feel naked.
I do too, honestly. I like loved all that information, but you know what? It'll make us stronger as a result. It'll make our love more untainted.
Yeah. But I am glad you found that little detail, because I have no memory of how you are clued to go to Mediel, other than I've always said, oh, I have an airship now. There's pretty much one location that's new.
Yeah,
I'm going to go there and explore.
Right, the southern continent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to Mediel. Mediel, it's like a fun little. It reminds me of a beach resort town, not on par with Costa del Sol, but more less of a tourist trap and more of just like an island vibe.
More Bali, less Cozumel.
Nice. There's a lost dog that's there at Mediel, and Tifa kind of makes the connection that like maybe she doesn't do this. Maybe this is Junior Counselor Sean that's making this connection. That lost dog, that's our little Cloud. He's also a lost little dog. And if we think to how much in Advent Children, how very much they want to make the connection between Cloud equals Lone Wolf.
Yeah.
But while Tifa is talking with the dog, she hears word about there's some spiky headed stranger.
I wonder who that could
washed
be.
Up. It's probably no one. But oh no, Cloud's a vegetable.
Yeah. Did you take time to upgrade some gear in Mediel and stuff?
I got all the best gear.
Yeah. Is this the part where there's like a little chocobo you got to chase around to every store? Or the lady who has the chocobo, she's like
the white chocobo.
Out?
Yeah. If there's a white chocobo, what's that?
It's just weird.
Yeah, it is weird. The white chocobo, because there's a woman who is she's like pandemic buying right now.
Yeah, that's
she's
a good way
just
to put it.
Stocking up on stuff. She's like, the end times are near. I saw like 3 different Godzillas come out of that crater. I'm gonna buy a couple extra pallets of hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
But you give the white chocobo a specific green.
Yeah.
And it gives you a materia, I believe.
Does it give you the contain materia?
I think that, yeah.
Dude, I've never much utilized the contain materia other than just get flare, because I know that's like the top single target attack magic in most Final Fantasies.
Oh, cool.
But in this run through, I started using freeze.
Yeah.
It's way overpowered.
Tell me what it does, because I didn't use it.
It basically just casts stop on like most enemies, including many bosses. I had no idea. I feel like it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we can check the game tape when we get there. But I feel like even in the last dungeon, like it was freezing like top tier enemies and maybe a boss.
That rocks. Especially in the final dungeon, like most enemies, they're basically mini bosses.
Yeah,
some of their health is just like wild.
Yeah, never messed with it much in any other run through, and it's way overpowered.
Yeah,
but, that's the main reason I wanted to bring up the chocobo ladies. You get that contained materia.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh snap!
Okay,
I'm doing all kinds of bad butt stuff with this. But yeah, we find Cloud the vegetable.
Cloud's a vegetable. He is suffering from Mako poisoning.
Aren't we all?
It's the doctor that's treating Cloud in the Mediel. The Mediel hospital says an immense amount of Mako-drenched knowledge entered his brain.
That's great.
So Tifa decides to. Oh, actually, before we get to because this is an interesting little thing. If before you go to Mediel, while you still have Tifa as your main party member. Which is great. It's so cool to see a different character walking around on the map and doing all that stuff. If you go back to her bedroom in Nibelheim, you get an elemental materia if you play the piano.
But it's only while she's in charge?
Yes, just while she's in charge.
Weird.
It's fun though.
Is it anything you play will spit it out?
I think you have to do her theme song as well. If I have my handy dandy strategy.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, everybody.
There are certain things that can happen differently when you are in control of a different avatar, which is cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to stay away from too many Rebirth tie-ins now, but they do, I think, a really great job in it of they give you sections where you have to use a different party member as your lead, and they all have like a different way they engage with terrain to do like very light puzzling.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of nice. But anyway, yeah, Tifa's she's wants some alone time with Cloud to figure out what's the what with him.
That's right.
And she agrees to stay behind. So we don't get a lot of time with Tifa in charge.
There's a lot of Twin Peaks vibes in Final Fantasy VII, and this particularly reminded me of like some season 2 nonsense from Twin Peaks. I don't know if you're a fan of that.
I only watched the first episode.
It's a hard show to get into if you like.
I wasn't in the right mindset. Storytelling. I bet I'd love it if I really gave it the time it deserves. But yeah, Tifa agrees to stay behind.
Yeah.
And then what had happened?
Well, Kate Sith, wait, you said that the Rebirth gives you a more pronunciation of the name?
He first gives you his name, and he says it through his megaphone. He says it a little bit like Kate Sith.
Okay. I want it to sound more like what I think it sounds like than
like Kate Sith. But then that I think that's just his Gaelic accent. And then, unfortunately, the characters, when they talk to him the rest of the game, they just call him Kate Sith.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? So, Kate Sith. I'm done saying all this nonsense.
Making up nonsense.
Fucking different cultures and their languages.
They all said, we don't care about your culture. We're calling you whatever we phonetically can make sense out of.
So they are also like, come on, let's go, Red XIII.
Yeah, and never mind. Let's just keep talking about this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. This is because today we're talking about 1997 Final Fantasy VII.
I'm trying.
But Kate Sith shares a couple Shinra tips. The huge materia that Scarlet and is it Heidegger?
Yes.
Yeah. Because Palmer is dead. Did he get killed by that box van?
Oh,
like I don't know if we see Palmer past that.
I don't know.
I'm fairly certain that killed him.
He's in the room. He's in the room.
Oh, damn it.
When Kate Sith is spying on Shinra for us, but we have Heidegger, Palmer, and Reeve in the room.
I really wish they would have just like killed him there. That would have been funny. Kind of. I like when people die. The huge materia is 330 times stronger than normal materia, and their plan is to ram it into Meteor.
Seems practical.
Oh, right, because if it's been a while since you listened to our last game episode, there's a big-ass meteor that Sephiroth summoned that's looming above the planet, and it is going to crash into the surface in a week's time. Kind of a
downer, huh?
Kind of a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah, so this gives us our mission, and we get this fun characterization of Kate Sith, aka at this point, I believe know he's Reeve.
It's Reeve!
And
Reeve is another Shinra lackey who was sort of opposed to the Sector 7 plate massacre, and so he got put on administrative leave.
He's the one who will occasionally speak up and be like, "Are we going too far?
Are we the bad guys?"
Yeah. But I like the way he introduces this scene where they spy on him. He's like, "Hey, Gyahaha and Kyahaha are up to something."
That's right.
So he likes to make fun of his coworkers that he hates, just like all of us. Yeah. I love it. I like when we make fun of like work, because neither of us has like a real office job.
I know. If I was to make fun of my coworkers, I'd be literally just making fun of my wife.
I have literally one coworker. Technically, it's complicated, but we have a good time. Anyways, so that gives us our mission to go to Well, Barrett's mad because he's like, they're doing more to Corel. God dang it.
Yeah.
How much more do we have to take?
Yeah, but there's 3 places of interest: Nibelheim, Corel, and Fort Condor.
Yeah.
So apparently Sid's in charge now.
Yeah, well, because he's got the airship,
I guess.
This is another great Sid characterization where they're all like, "What should we do? Who should be in charge?" And Sid is sleeping up against like the like pilot's station or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like totally disinterested. He's like, wait, what's happening? And they're like, you're in charge now.
He's like, oh man.
Makes no sense. I feel like Barrett should be in charge at this point.
I agree with you.
Makes the most sense. He's like our A1 day one, like ride or die ally in this cause, and the one like the most invested. Sid's really just been along for the ride since Rocket Town.
Yeah, Sid's our newest party member too. But Sid's in charge. My first destination was the Corel reactor.
Yeah, I'm guessing mine was the same.
Oh, you know what? Let's talk about this pilot and training character.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of fun. The way
I
they do
love
this.
what they did. So when you first get the high wind, the pilot in training, you see this pilot as the story progresses, he levels up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect the gameplay or like the actual controlling of the high wind, which I thought would actually be a delightful little like side path. If like while the pilot is still a low level pilot, if the high wind wasn't as responsive to your movements or anything, that's not the case. But I thought that would be cute. But the pilot gets more and more confident as you progress through the story, and it has nothing to do with the game besides to make you go,
this is fun.
It's like, oh, way to go, team. We're all growing as people. But the Corel reactor, this is the reactor that was built outside of Barrett's hometown of Corel. And this is the reactor that essentially is the cataclysm toward the destruction of Barrett's like original life. His life in Corel as like a two-handed man was ended because of the Shinra's meddling, and they're
still not big fans of Barrett around Corel.
Yeah, they're straight up rude. I'll say they're rude to him.
Yeah, we remember he got punched when he walked in.
Yeah,
he was like, "It's fine, I deserve it." So yeah, we got to go to Corel, and we have to find our way back to the reactor for the huge materia.
That's right. And the huge materia is being transported on a train. And the gang jumps onto the train, and you play the lever mini game, where you gotta you get the train up to speed to catch up with the materia.
It's so silly.
It's not even a mini game as much as just like it's almost more like a quick time event, like where you got to press the levers, you got a timer, cut them down in the corner, and Sid's getting his calisthenics in.
It's a nice attempt, at a sort of mechanically engaging you with like what's physically going on because you're alternating hands the way he is.
Is this how trains work? You gotta do the levers constantly to get up to speed.
It's a little like those ones where you have like a train cart where two guys are just doing the seesaw back and forth.
Sure.
It's not that different from that, one of my favorite parts of this segment is that one of your party members, when they're like, "Oh, how long is it going to take before they just crash this train with the huge materia into Corel?" Which seems against what Shinra would want as well. It doesn't seem like they just would want to crash the train.
Yeah.
But somebody's like, maybe it'll take about 10 minutes, and then a 10-minute timer starts.
Sure, specificity.
He just nails it. It'll take exactly 10 minutes from here. So once we catch up by doing the lever game, we have to leap across to the other train and fight our way through. So the real challenge here is, can you beat the enemies fast enough?
I sure can. My guys are leveled up like crazy.
Yeah, this was, I think, the point of the game that I became pretty, like, I don't know how I got there, but I felt like over leveled from here on out.
That's good.
Because I was pretty under leveled before this.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what happened. Maybe it's just you get some materia that's at a certain like power that it's like, whatever, this is easy now.
Yeah, so you're going through a little gauntlet of fights to get to the front of the train. Every car that you jump onto has another fight, and I believe they get more and more difficult as you go along. But, whatever. I stopped the train. You have to do a lever mini game to stop the train as well. And I thought I failed it when I first played.
Same.
And I got very, very frustrated because I wanted this to go through because as you go through, collecting the giant materia is going to have a end game benefit if you follow through.
Yeah, I thought I failed because I put the FMV on the screen for anybody on the YouTube. Like the train looks like it's just going to keep railing into the town.
Yeah, the momentum would actually keep going.
Yeah,
like, no fucking brakes are going to stop.
So I had the exact same experience when that FMV was rolling. I was like, no, wait, I did it. I did it. What are you doing? And then it stops. Yeah, I got my huge materia out of it.
Yeah, it's good. And as a reward, one of the Corel villagers will give you Ultima materia. That's what I thought was the most powerful magic materia.
And pure DPS, probably Ultima. Well, I think about DPS in these games very literally of like, well, how long does the animation take? I've like gotten to the point like old games like this, I'm extremely optimized in my mind. About, like, I could cast Ultima or I could get 4x cut and the animation runs way faster for more damage.
Comet 2 is also a really good
yeah, but then it depends on how many enemies is it dispersing the damage across.
God damn.
And the RNG of that.
Love it.
That's how I think in these games at this point. But yeah, Ultima it's a staple on a party member from here on out for me.
We learned that the Corel miners, their plan concerning Meteor, they say they're going to dig deep and hide from Meteor.
Why not? They got the skills, dog.
Like maybe perhaps like a Fallout shelter.
I thought that was where you were going with this.
So, what else? We also get Barrett's ultimate weapon.
Oh,
no,
do?
No.
Level 4 limit break, I believe.
No. Just ignore me. I'm so silly.
That's why we need that Brady Games guide.
Where's my guide?
Catastrophe.
Head camp counselor Michael Mayonnaise, please report to my bunk.
This is what happens when he's missing.
I know.
We mess up details.
I miss him so much.
It's almost like we need to make a new sketch where he returns.
What do you mean make a sketch?
Oh, I mean, this is all real life. Yeah, you're right.
And if you have no idea who head counselor Michael Mayonnaise is, please listen back to the first season of Camp Video Games. And what do I mean by season? I'm just talking about my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, next stop, Fort Condor. Now, this is actually the first time that I did the Fort Condor battle game in this playthrough.
I was so mad. You go on though.
Well, that's really it's just it's a little mini game where it's like a tower. It's kind of like a tower defense mini game, and no, it is a tower defense mini game, and you are protecting the Phoenix that's at the top of the reactor.
Wait, can I pause and throw in one side quest here?
Of course.
Real quick. This is one of my favorite stupid Easter eggs in the game. Is that I don't know if you have to do one of the huge materia quests first before you can do this, but if you return to Medeal,
okay,
and you talk to Cloud, and you keep talking to Cloud, he will start mumbling about. Let me see if I can. Yeah, we go. Taking angels singing voices, Xenogears. So if you keep talking to him, he mutters the lyrics from the main theme of Xenogears, which comes out a year after this game. And then I think he'll just keep muttering Xenogears. I when I was streaming, I spent like 10 minutes on this because like I pulled up the song that he's referencing.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a fun little Easter egg that I think what's his name? I don't know. One of the guy who wrote Xenogears was somehow involved.
Yeah,
in Final
because
Fantasy
this is
VII.
Final Fantasy VII, directed by Nomura. Is that Tetsuya Nomura?
He did the character design, and I think what's his name? Katase is the director, producer. I forgot.
Yeah,
we should know these things, but who cares? It's all the same gang floating around at that era, but. Yeah, I don't know if we discussed that. Like, Xenogears was pitched as, can this be Final Fantasy VII? Like, the concept of it before they started development. And they were like, this is, like, too complicated and mature for a Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So they eventually, like, I guess, begged enough that they let them do their own spin-off game and then did this cute little Easter egg reference to it. So, anyways, yeah, that's fun. And then we go to the tower defense game of Fort Condor.
Yeah, it was not as fun as I remembered.
It sucks. Oh, God.
I think I might have even spoken some praise toward it in previous mentions, but yeah, goddamn, dude. Like, I had all the money. I've got so much gil in this game, and I didn't realize that there was a unit limit on how many units I could place. So I got completely wiped out. You know what? I don't even want to dedicate that much time to it. You can buy different types of troops to defend against different types of enemies. It's Fire Emblem logic. One unit is super effective against a different type of unit and super ineffective against a different kind.
But like lazy, like a lazier development than that.
And it looks like shit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter, because once the enemies breach your line and they get to the top, it's just up to your team to fight.
Right. Which is the real, like, again, if we're talking about optimizing your time, I did not do that here. I've got my footage running on the YouTube, and somehow when I went to Fort Condor, I played the minigame thinking, like, this is what I need to do. But I didn't talk to the right NPC first.
Oh,
so
no.
I didn't. I'd forgotten also about the detail that you can skip, like, just not put out a single unit and just let the enemy get to the top and fight them.
That's right. And it's just one fight that decides the entire outcome.
And you just win that fight and you get the huge materia. I thought I had to win the minigame. And I had to talk to the right NPC that triggered the scenario for the huge materia. So I just played an extra round of it.
Yeah.
For no reason and wasted a bunch of time.
I'm so sorry for your loss. So annoyed.
Thankfully, the 3x speed mode works here. Thank
God, because it's a slow moving little.
It's not a great. I don't know. I don't want to knock it really, because at the time, again, put myself in my 12-year-old brain, who didn't have as much like dopamine hacking stimuli on the internet. I had the internet, but not as intense as it is now. And it was like, this is my game that I have to play for the next 6 months. Like, it's cool to have something that, like, you can really invest time in, even if it's not, the greatest tactics game ever made, even at the time. But it's not good. It did not age well.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that context. That is really important, because this was made 27 years ago. So it is good to keep that in mind.
Yeah. I thought this was awesome at the time.
I did too, as a kid. And I think that led to the disappointment of mid to late 30-year-old Sean playing this versus 11 to 12-year-old Sean playing this. Is that I remembered it being cooler.
And it's just interesting the way, like, game development is this process of not just, like, technology, but, like, discovery of, like, how much quality of life enhancement can you do and still keep a gamer engaged and feel immersed. They were figuring it out, and this, I don't know if it was a matter of this is as fast as they could make it run with that many polygons on the screen and assets, or if they really thought, like, this is super engaging and this is the right speed for it, because the Rebirth edition of Fort Condor, literally it limits you to 3 minutes per game, and it just runs way faster than this. Like, you're laying out your units in real time Like
instead
you
of
have
the
like
preamble?
you have like an ATB charge, and like
Yeah.
each unit's a certain number of charges, and you just are popping them out like in real time. So you're putting somebody out every 10 to 12 seconds instead of being like, move here, now wait, wait.
The combat reminds me a lot of Age of Empires, Command and Conquer, the original Warcraft games. There's real-time strategy games.
Yeah.
Less
It's a bit
refined.
slow and less refined, especially given that some of those games were out at the time. But you know, I don't know. That's enough about Fort Condor. Eventually, when you talk to the right NPC,
there you go.
It triggers that when they get to the top, you're gonna fight a boss, and I don't recall what the boss is. Do you?
It was just some fucking goblin-looking monster. it was whatever, honestly. And you win, and then the Phoenix that's guarding a giant egg on top of the reactor, because we find out that Fort Condor is actually a reactor, and the Shinra troops that are invading Fort Condor, they're not interested in the Phoenix or its egg. They're just trying to get at the giant materia.
Sweet giant materia, baby.
The egg, the Phoenix, does it just burst into flames and die like they're known to do?
Yeah.
Then the egg hatches.
Yeah. It's hard to decipher. Like, did they think this was a condor and it's a phoenix or what? But yeah, it hatches, kills off the condor / phoenix that's there, and a little youngling is born.
Yeah.
And that's where we can run up and find the phoenix summon materia.
Phoenix summon materia. Pretty important if you are going to take on some of the super bosses.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, I did not.
No,
not
happening in this playthrough.
Not in this playthrough.
I got other games to play. I'm an adult man. I got a life to live.
That's right. So back at Medill, Tifa's losing hope here.
This is the real stuff. This is what we really want to get into.
This is
that was all just
the entree.
Yeah.
We've been talking about some side dishes up until this point. Tifa's losing hope, and gosh darn it, ultimate weapon. Big ol' kaiju is attacking Medill.
Yeah. Excuse me. They think it's an earthquake, and Sid and the boys have got to run out and do something about Ultima Weapon attacking the town of Medill. And you go out, and this is your first battle with it. You battle it here, correct? Yeah.
It's cool because you're gonna be chasing this bad boy around the planet, and everywhere you fight it, it's going to be a different battle map. You know, like the background is going to vary depending on where you're fighting it. These days, not a big deal. Back in that day, I was very impressed. Nice attention to detail.
Well, I'll just note, like, my last playthrough of this game, I didn't stream because my setup was all messed up, but I haven't recorded for this. I'd say probably like a quarter of it was me chasing this stupid thing all over the map.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so you fight Ultima Weapon. It wreaks havoc on the town. And when it swooped in and it flies overhead, I was like, are you going to do some back attack nonsense on me and switch rows? I don't think it does. Is back attack even a thing in this game?
Like
where your characters switch rows?
Well, you can get like preemptive attacked by enemies. And in that case, like Barrett would be in the front.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, that does happen.
Interesting.
I don't know if that happens with Ultimate Weapon.
It like the way the fight starts, it flies overhead and passes you, so it looks like that's gonna happen.
Okay.
I don't think it did. So I just remember when I was playing, I was like, "Oh, come on!" I thought they were gonna force me into that. Like, it just feels like cheating when it And this happens a lot in Rebirth, where you enter a battle and it's like, oh, this thing's one weakness is something you didn't equip.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, God dang it!
I remember way back in Disc 1, as Cloud and the gang are fighting to escape Shinra Tower after the motorcycle little
That's
game.
Where, yeah.
That giant truck monster it hits your whole crew and then you're all reversed.
Yeah, it just seems gauche and hacky to me.
I agree.
To do that, like where it's like, unless you're using a Brady Games guide, there's no way to know
exactly.
to be prepared for something like that.
So after you fight Ultima Weapon off, you don't defeat him on your first encounter, but as a result of Ultima Weapon's attack, the life stream is opening up in Mediel, and Sid and the gang, they escape, but Tifa and Cloud fall into the life stream.
Yeah, don't that beat all?
Ain't it a shame?
And ain't that a shame?
Now, I was just thinking about this because, like, okay, so the life stream, it's full of Mako.
Mm-hmm.
That green, good. Mako made Cloud sick. He's got Mako poisoning. But it also kind of fixes him. What I'm getting at, it's kind of they're following cartoon logic with getting hit in the head by a donkey.
Uh-huh.
Where it's like, I got kicked in the head by a donkey and now I am blind and deaf.
The only cure is getting kicked by the other
donkey.
leg.
That's right. So, basically, Tifa and Cloud, they fall into the live stream. And now we're going to get into the weird stuff.
It's really funny that, like, I feel like as a kid, this was my like least favorite part of the game. I'm just like, hurry up.
Yes.
I've only got like an hour to play. And this time through, I'm just like hanging out, milking it for hanging on every syllable, you know?
Well, in that same breath, this part of the game made me feel young again because I was actually like, good Lord, let's go. I can't. Where are the fights? Where are the numbers?
That's hilarious.
But we're swimming through Cloud's subconscious right now. Cloud is going to be a silent companion to Tifa, and we're in control of Tifa right now. And it's like, I mean, how do we describe what's going on here? Inside the live stream, it looks like we're back in the like city of the ancients almost. The kind of like coloration and like underwater vibe to it is very reminiscent of the ancient city. But Cloud is like there's several different aspects of Cloud that I would kind of simplify and, you know, tell me what you think about this, but I feel like they've kind of separated Cloud into his wishes, his doubts, and his like history. Like you've got his like wish for love, his doubt, which is like he's doubting his like memories, like the well and all of the things that are like supposed to be the concrete memories for Cloud. And then there's also like his home and like his true history, which was like Nibelheim and Sephiroth, like the things that are like all a part of what makes Cloud. But tell me what this meant to you today playing it.
It is a reinforcement of something we talked about a few episodes ago about like, honestly, like modern theory of like how the brain like stores traumatic memories and represses things that we think of it as like the prefrontal cortex is like where our conscious thoughts about like stimuli in front of us are happening. And then there's two other layers. I forget what the middle layer is, but like the bottom is like the like core things that like our nervous system will just like respond to, you know? And so like if somebody has PTSD, it responds very negatively to certain stimuli. And it feels like that's the part of Cloud's brain that we're in this segment of the game. And then, funnily enough, when he's muttering Xenogears in his Mako poison state, it does a very similar thing to finally pull its hero out of the depths of like identity disorder despair.
in Xenogears?
Yeah, it's a very similar process.
Interesting.
So they were very into this, very like ahead of the times at Squaresoft back in the 90s in terms of like theory of the mind, you know.
Is the Xenogear the mech itself?
The that's a good question. It means a lot of things in that game, but
Okay.
like the final, like most powerful mech you get after that sequence, big spoilers, is called Xenogears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
But I don't know why. It looks like I did the memories in the order of this one at the gates of Nibelheim first. And because I remember on stream talking about like it looks like you're supposed to go down to this one in the corner because like Tifa's looking at it. And Cloud's like point of his hair is pointing at it. And Cloud's facing you there.
right. Oh wait. So to describe the actual like scene that's there, like there's like 3 different versions of Cloud that are just sitting there. Those were the different aspects that I described earlier. And then there's also Cloud in agony. That's like semi-transparent, like floating high above in like massive scale.
That's what I think of as like the like prefrontal cortex Cloud, the one who's trying to figure out like what is going on inside here.
Yeah.
You know?
So we're going through Cloud's memory right now. And Tifa's like kind of just like working her way. She's like, okay, Nibelheim. I lived here. Cloud lived here. Sephiroth and Soldier came here. And it's just a matter of like seeing the events play out again, except this time we're gonna get a bit more information on the true events. Really, this is, last week we talked about Last Order, Final Fantasy VII, and how my thesis on that was it's just made to clarify what the fuck happened in Final Fantasy VII.
Which is funny because after we recorded that episode and I listened back to it and I was like, you know what? I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like from the writer's perspective, they meant for it to be like, this is the objective, what happened.
Yeah.
But when you think of it from a storytelling point of view, you are looking at Sung's interpretation of likely Hojo's report of the study.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's whose point of view it's going to be biased towards.
Well, this is why campers, it's sometimes dangerous to quote unquote do your own research.
Exactly.
And what we
this is a media literacy lesson.
Yes. What is touted as objective truth is often not the case. History is written by the victors.
Right. And I would think, God, all memory is subjective, but like if we think of the live stream is just all memories return there. This of the two of them in the live stream is going to be the most honest, authentic recount of the actual facts on the ground. That's my thought.
I'm buying it. I'm buying it. There's like Tifa has like there's what you've described in previous episodes of like Tifa being kind of like a cop in the sense of her like well, I would love to like kind of work out what that means, because when I hear her being a cop, I just hear her abusing power and like, like looming over people that are like supposed to be made to feel lesser than her.
Yeah, maybe it comes from up to this point that she's, I think, committing lots of sins of omission.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And that's the way like an authority figure will wield power over you.
It's not a lie. It's just that I didn't say the whole truth.
But that being said, the actual intention of Tifa's character, or the what she's emotionally struggling with, is I don't know how. Like she's operating from a place of fear. I don't know how to deal with the fact that like his memory is different than what actually happens.
Yeah.
It's like that's just weird, and like he seems to be going through a lot, so I'm worried I'm going to trigger something if I like actually talk about it. But it is fun to characterize her as like a cop of being like, no, I'm the one who really knows what's going on here, so I'm going to manage the narrative.
Yeah, and her body cam always turns off at the most convenient times. No, I see her. I see this as a compassionate, like tenderness, a hesitancy to correct, just because of the fragility of Cloud's like ego's his like super ego, like is all just like very, very, very. It's all hanging on by a thread right now. and she doesn't want to be the one to snip it.
Yeah, I was just having fun being a bit uncharitable, calling her a cop throughout this.
What do we find out that
So I was just, for anybody on the YouTube, I was playing that first memory up at the top of this little triangle of memories you can go to, which is Tifa bringing Cloud to realize, like, no, you weren't the soldier who came. That was Zack.
Yeah.
And then it sends you back, and then I went to this one in the corner that I think the game wanted you to go first.
Yeah.
That it labels as a sealed up secret wish that Cloud had. Oh no, I think it does. It forces you to do them in a certain order.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Okay.
they'll respond to Tifa by
So
like engaging with her, or just by like muttering something.
Right. So it's the night at the well that it
That's
makes you
right.
do next?
The well. This is what this well memory seems to be like one of the most important moments in Cloud's like life, in the sense that it's used as an anchor for him. He's like, that is a true memory.
Yeah.
There's nothing corrupted about this memory. There is no misgivings or like misunderstandings or misinterpretations. Like, what happened as I remember it, that is my one solid concrete memory.
Yes. And that is very well stated for somebody who hasn't played the remake series, is that they double down on that, as that was our intention. They keep going back to this memory of Cloud and Tifa at the well, and him making this promise to show up when she needs him.
It's in the sense that like Cloud had, as we see more of Cloud in Tifa's childhood, Tifa was always surrounded by friends. Cloud was always the outsider. This seems to be his first time that he was like, "Hey, Tifa, I want to like
I want
talk
to chill
to
with just you one-on-one."
Yeah, and we talked earlier episodes about like Aerith recognizing that Cloud needed to be accountable. He needed people that depend on him.
He needed people to drag him kicking and screaming into adulthood.
Basically, yeah. And this is the first instance where that was like kind of cemented in Cloud's mind, where it's like, well, this is where Tifa makes Cloud make the promise. Like, if I'm ever in a bind, you're gonna come and save me. If you're famous. She's cloud chasing.
Clout chasing for Cloud.
That's the well date was a true event, and one of the few true events of Final Fantasy VII that is not corrupted by Jenova or by lies and trickery.
Yeah. It's like Genova's the mainstream media trying to tell us all this fake news.
Folks, a lot of people saying bad things about Jenova. She's pretty good.
Pretty good. We like Jenova around here. the only person in media the only telling the truth is Jenova. Dang it. I backed up because there was like one little detail where Tifa talks about memory being subjective, and then gets into this like woo-woo thing after you've watched these first two memories of what's locked in your heart is real memory that can't be tainted, so
yes,
we need to get to that memory.
Yes.
That's when we get into like woo, you saving the world with the power of friendship.
That's
kind
the
of
power
vibe.
of love.
That's when we get to the real anime stuff.
Yeah, that sure is. That's well put. But then we're gonna learn more about Cloud. When this is when we go through Tifa's mom's death, if I remember correctly. There's because like in their childhood, Tifa's mom died, and that's where Tifa tries to scale Mount Nebel.
Yeah, I believe that's next. And this is the like core thing, like little boy Cloud has held on to that, I guess, like the Jenova cells or memory in him have like repressed. It seems like to try to make him lose hold of the fact that he is a real boy.
Yeah.
And this is that secret memory tied up in your heart that can never be taken that Tifa mentions. But I do absolutely love that it is this. I don't know, everything about the way it's framed I think is very well done. That this is all the rest of this we've seen from some angle until this scene.
Yeah.
So it is that one piece that okay, they lock in and they go, we both have this memory, therefore you have to be a real boy, because Genova did not put this in your brain.
Yeah.
There's no part of this.
How could Genova know this?
Yeah, exactly. And I love the way that I think this song only plays once. We talked about it in last week's episode, but this song On the Other Side of the Mountain, it's this nice harpsichord, I don't know, very longing sort of piece as Cloud is following Tifa into the mountains. It's like he's living up to that promise he made before he even made it.
That's right. Yeah. I'll protect you whenever you're in a bind.
Yeah.
He wasn't famous though, so come on, man.
And we do get a little bit of characterization of the kind of company Tifa kept at this age.
They seem like groupies.
They're just cliquey.
Yeah, yeah.
The way kids are cliquey. Which again, Rebirth.
Not me. I'm a lone wolf.
I'm on now. I think chapter 11 of Rebirth, and they've filled in a little bit of this gap. With that is kind of where they go. It's we were a clique. We ostracized Cloud a little bit, and but on this day, when I most needed somebody to protect my very young self at a very vulnerable point, my mom had just died.
Did they say how her mom dies?
I don't believe so.
Okay, go ahead.
And we see in the cutscenes, each screen they go to, a few more kids have trailed off. Yeah. Until finally it's just Cloud looking out for her from behind.
That's right. True friendship is not who's around the most, it's who's around when it matters.
Yeah.
I've got so many people that I thought were friends in my life that
are
just I'm just wow, never mind.
You want to get corny on the pod?
Junior Counselor Josh, we're both corny people.
Well,
go for it.
I mean, this is the reason I feel like you and I are still friends. Not the only reason, but one of those core reasons is I've had a couple weird medical mishaps in my life.
Yeah.
And when people have found out about it, you're the one who's what can I do for you? And you show up and bring me a week of meals when I'm ugh. And I've had other people who were oh yeah, especially, I don't know, it was 6 or 7 years ago when I had a really bad concussion.
Yeah.
And I just a lot of friends just disappeared from my life because I disappeared from the social scene for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was you and a few other people that I was oh, those are the people who showed up.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that is the older you get, the bigger a deal it is. That it's the people when you're actually struggling are gonna be you all right? And that's what Cloud does for Tifa, right?
Yeah, it all goes back to that Bessie Smith song. Nobody knows you when you're down and out.
Yeah, it's who shows up when the cards are whatever not in your favor, and this is kind of how they save each other. That core collected or shared memory.
Well, if a couple pounds of curry could cement a friendship, then by golly, that's
more than a
curry.
lot of people do when you get old.
Well, I love you, buddy.
Likewise.
So we get to Cloud's. Okay, let's just get to the real thing. Cloud's breakthrough in the live stream is that oh right, everything that I'm pretending to be, that's not me. That's Zach.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Zach? That's that black-haired dude that looks just like Cloud, and he wears his pajamas, and he's got his sword, and
wears his pajamas.
But okay, here's the actual topic of conversation that I think we should really focus on because this is important and relevant to this day. It's called stolen valor. Cloud is not a soldier first class.
He sure ain't. He's just some broke ass cop.
He's begging on the street corner wearing some fatigues and 38 medals, and people are oh yeah, where'd you serve? He's Fallujah.
Gungaga and Wutai and Medeal. I was first class, dropped in infantry from the paratrooper division, and he sure wasn't.
But so what we learn really is that, okay, it all goes back to that truck ride with Sephiroth on the way to Mount Nibel. When Cloud was first explaining to the gang his relationship with Sephiroth in Calm, and they're going through that whole backstory. Cloud was one of those military police that was wearing the masks.
Yeah.
He was the one in the truck who had a stomach issue that Cloud was talking to in the memory that he presented. That was actually Zack talking to Cloud. It's all coming together now.
Yeah. And fun little just detail is that like in Rebirth, this is like chapter 1 of Rebirth, spoiler a little bit. Cloud's doing his version of the 5 years ago, telling the story at the Calm Inn. And because we have so much more detailed character animation now, Cloud is just constantly doing squats the way Zack does.
Yeah.
And he, like, his mannerisms, his movement are like Zack. A lot more than they were in the original game, which is really great. So, yeah, now we get the final telling of what actually happened at the reactor. Turns out Cloud was just one of these masked cops. Zack went in to try to fight Sephiroth, like we talked about last week.
That's right. When they had their awesome Dragon Ball Z anime fight.
In the original version, they did not have much of an awesome DBZ anime fight. Zack just gets his butt beat and thrown against the wall. Tifa's been slashed, and this is the version where Cloud takes on Sephiroth on his own. He slices him through the belly, right? Still?
So in the anime, he stabs Sephiroth through the back in the like sternum. In this one, let's watch this little.
We've got the cutscene up for anybody who's watching on YouTube.
Oh, right through the
checking
belly.
out
Sephiroth
Camp
turned
Video Games
around.
there.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
Oh yeah, check out Camp Video Games on YouTube if you want some visual supplements. Sometimes we, got the footy on TV.
That's right. And also, campers, join us patreon.com/campvideogames, and you can watch Junior Counselor Josh's playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, which means you get to hear him talk even more about Final Fantasy VII and Xenogears and God knows what else.
Yeah, that's where you get those fun Easter eggs. But yeah, Cloud stabs Sephiroth, unveils himself dramatically, and this is really great that through this whole scene, you cannot use that 3x speed up. The reason why is it's playing a timed loop of the bridge of the overworld theme.
Nice.
Which is like a little bit more of like that unsettling section. And then it ends in that climax. Yeah. And it ends in that big climax. I can't sing a cappella very well, but like, and it's timed so that big climax of the overworld theme music is when, I believe it's when Cloud takes his mask off and unveils it was him the whole time, who really did save Tifa. And I didn't notice it until this playthrough because of the fact that like, I didn't want to speed it up, but I was like, oh, you can't speed this part up. And then I was listening. I was like, oh, because this is all very tightly timed to the cutscene that you don't control.
That's good filmmaking, baby.
Yeah, it's so good. Now we see the real version after we've unveiled Cloud.
So one thing that I think really needs to be hammered in here is that while Cloud was along for the ride with Zack and Sephiroth to Nibelheim 5 years prior, he kept his identity hidden the entire time. He's ashamed of himself.
Yep.
And shame is a huge part of Cloud's character development.
It's a huge motivator for non-growth.
Yeah. But he's like he was talking a big talk with, to Tifa before he left for Midgar, and he did not accomplish that. He did not hit 1 million subscribers. So he kept his identity hidden, and it's just this was a huge like storytelling revelation back in the day. And like
this is a video game all time.
Oh yeah,
at the time,
big time.
I mean, I can't think of much that tops this for me in terms of like. I mean, it's this and Xenogears, which again does a very similar thing.
Are there any Is there an OVA for Xenogears or anything adjacent? I would love an
Do you want to invest 50 hours in one game?
I'm not scared.
It's a fantastic game. Everybody should play it.
Yeah.
But this is a all-time storytelling and gaming for me. But then after we've seen Cloud's track of like this is what actually happened, we get the reveal that he killed Sephiroth by getting stabbed in the belly and pulling himself through his blade, and then somehow overpowering Sephiroth to throw him in the life stream.
Yeah, that's right. But at the same time, Sephiroth, this has been covered in the OVA Last Order as well. But Sephiroth decapitates Jenova because Sephiroth was visiting Jenova's body in the Nibelheim reactor. He's going, "Oh, mommy, I love you," and then the Cloud stabs Sephiroth, and then he goes to check on Tifa, and then Sephiroth decapitates Jenova, stabs Cloud through the belly. Right, Cloud does a Uno reverse card, and
2-player Uno reverse.
He flings Sephiroth into the life stream. Not
Sephiroth jumping in, which we mentioned in that episode. This is like an official, the team decided to like canonically retcon it, and I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it too. Again, and as we said before, it paints Sephiroth as a much more calculating villain, and that was we talked about it. Cloud, at this point, like Tifa is back in the live stream weird memory island that she's talking with Cloud.
Memory island.
She's been talking with a child version of Cloud who's kind of acting as her tour guide, like being like, "Oh, isn't it weird that my brain's all fucked up?" And this is an incredibly like touching moment where all three of the shadow forms of Cloud walk into the childhood form of Cloud. And we call that self-realization.
And each time one comes in, it gives you this sound effect and Cloud pumping his fist, like a powering up. It's very like Dragon Ball Z-esque for some reason to me.
Doing the Kaioken.
And then we get that sort of
the agonized Cloud form also falls from the sky into Cloud, and that's where he's like fully powered, Voltron.
Yeah, and I think that sort of agonized Cloud is the prefrontal cortex operating in the real world ego version that like is now able to mold all these pieces and be a fully formed boy.
Yes.
Pinocchio is real now.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think that could really be like Cloud's trauma or his self-doubt. And once he's able to overcome that is where Cloud regains his consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, it cannot be stressed enough how much like this framing of like dealing with traumatic experience and identity disorder and acceptance of the self, like literally like I forget if I talked about this when I first gave the example of that type of therapy for like PTSD, EMDR. The way that it works is you are like envision, like you're supposed to like go back and envision like the thing that was like problematic for you or caused this issue, and like everybody can handle it different ways. And the way my brain would do it is it would make like connections to stories and media like this that felt similar, and like you will, so it's like, let's say it's like, oh, you were like bullied or like assaulted by some person. Like what you do is you envision yourself like taking power back from there. So it's like whatever your brain does. For me, it was like a couple times it was just like climbing on top of this person and beating the shit out of them is like the thing you envision as the way to take your power back.
Yeah, yeah.
And like if you have a good therapist, their job is just to be like, just go with it and like make sure you're okay and be like, I'm not judging it. If what you need to do is envision yourself just murdering this person to like deal with it, that's fine.
Cool.
And it's weird that like that my brain doesn't do. I don't have a visual memory or like visual. What do you call it? Like thoughts. Like I'm not able to visualize very well.
Oh, sure.
And so like
your mind's eye does not focus on imagery as much as it does on probably feelings, emotion.
Yeah, there was like this test that was popping up on the internet a couple years ago that made me realize this, where like it was like 5 degrees of like, if I tell you to envision an apple in your mind, what does it look like? And I'm basically like the blank. I'm like, concept of the word apple is what I see.
Yeah.
I don't see a full red delicious apple in my brain when I think. So like I guess my brain's way of doing this is like I would envision something like this scene from Final Fantasy VII or like the scene from Xenogears of like all the fractured parts of me like dealing with stuff is the way my brain would do it. So I guess that was a long tangent to say like how these stories, even more than I've already described in our 19 hours of discussing it, like have really like impacted me in a very deep way.
Well, in a positive way.
Yeah.
It's I mean, anything that helps you realize who you are and like what you're like. Video games, like any other art form, are incredibly important for adding context to the world in terms of and it seems like in your case in adding some relatability and what like these characters are going through. You can use that to then as like an anchor point of like what you're going through.
Yeah, and it's like the audio visual component of it helps me have something to grasp onto when attempting to visualize that like I just can't do on my own. It's interesting to think about it as like a chicken or the egg thing is like, do I not have that capability because I had like video games to do it for me so early?
I don't think so.
Because I think there is something to like, maybe if somebody reads a lot of fiction, maybe they're better at like visualizing in their mind. Or is it that like, I don't grasp onto fiction very well because I can't do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all. I don't know. Say whatever works for you to get through stuff. Go for it, man.
In his memoir, Stephen King's On Writing, there's a great section where he talks about like writing is magic in the sense that like I can write, there's a table with a candle on it, and everybody who reads that, if they're trying to summon an image, they're going to have something different to some degrees, but they're going to have those basic foundationals.
And my brain is just literally going to have the words, yeah, there's a table with a candle on it. Not a picture of a table with a candle on it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as succinct or clear as Stephen King was in describing what he's getting at with that. But like everybody has a way to come to terms with who they are. And luckily, we were born in a time where we had video games at our disposal, because that was an effective way for, in one way of putting it, self-realizing who we are, where we stand in the world, and what our place is. Man, Final Fantasy VII, good game.
Yeah, and it's one more detail on this is that like, and this is the game I was playing when like the memories and experiences that I was dealing with in this therapy were happening to me in my life. It's like, how much that matters or is related.
I don't know.
One of my favorite sessions of this was like dealing with my like elementary and middle school, where like I was just relentlessly bullied and that like beat up my self-esteem a lot.
Oh yeah.
The visualization that came up was like a kaiju, like using this game like a weapon, or like Godzilla like monster just destroying the school.
That rocks. Oh,
and again, it's like when you're in it, you're not really controlling, like you're not choosing these things consciously. They're just coming up.
Yeah, it's like
wild.
free association.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and also like, to kind of put an end cap on this very heady talk for a 1997 PlayStation game. Because dreams, right? Dreams are like a weird anomaly in our evolutionary tract, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you describe to an alien what sleeping and dreaming is, it's like, every night we hypnotize ourselves and then we hallucinate for 8 hours.
And that's how your brain is basically like mopping the floor.
Yeah.
It's like the best we've kind of been able to figure out.
So the thing that I kind of like latched onto, if you have a dream about killing somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean that your brain wants to kill them. It means that you want to kill the feelings attached to those people.
Exactly.
And that's like, you know, because like with this Godzilla smashing your middle school, it doesn't mean you want to smash your middle school or kill those kids. Right?
I mean, the world would be a better place if that school did not exist.
But it really it's those feelings attached to those places and those people that is what you're really trying to erase.
Exactly. Yeah.
So okay, Cloud is now he's now verified sane.
He gets his sanity card. Cloud gains 20 sanity points.
That's right, and he and Tifa they sweep up on the Mako shore in Medial.
Quick side note: I think it'd be really interesting to play some version of Final Fantasy VII with like the Call of Cthulhu like system, where like you can lose by losing too many sanity points.
Oh, like the pen and paper game?
Yeah, like
I've
the
never played that
tabletop
one.
game.
Yeah.
I'm just vaguely familiar with the systems. That would be very interesting.
Speaking of like Lovecraftian video game connections, do you ever play the Alone in the Dark series?
No, but it just popped on my radar. Was there a new one recently?
Yeah, there's a new game. It's basically so Alone in the Dark is kind of the precursor to Resident Evil in terms of like survival horror video games. Alone in the Dark, I believe the first one came out in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
It was a PC game. It looked great for 1992. But Lovecraftian like horrors are abound in that stuff. And you know, it might be fun to visit at some point.
Closest I've played to sort of that style is Disco Elysium, which I think you would love.
I'll give that a shot.
Incredible game. That's all about like dealing with the identity of the self and trying to discover it. But the game is designed as such, and it's so deep that the end result can be very different. Like nobody will play that game the same way twice.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
very good. Anyway, back to Final Fantasy VII and Cloud rediscovering himself. We go back to the Highwind, and he's like, "Sorry about the hassle, everybody."
That's right. Before we get to that, Tifa had one quote I wanted to reference that Tifa says. She says after they wash up, their Medial is completely fucked.
Yeah.
It got straight up Hiroshima, I guess. I don't know. No, it didn't get nuked. It just got Ultima weapons. But Tifa says, yeah, people have so much pent up. You're like, yeah, Tifa, it's hard not to sometimes. Back on the Highwind, Cloud, he fesses up. He's like, you know, there's a little bit of Sephiroth in me. Sorry, everybody. But he revows to fight for the planet.
Yeah.
And this is where everybody finishes Barrett's sentence, where they all say, ain't no getting off of this train.
Yeah.
Man, that's such a pump up moment.
I love it.
The train is such an
metaphor.
Such an important metaphor for this.
Yeah.
Like, because we talked in episode 1 of our discussions of Final Fantasy VII, we started talking about predestination and how it's like, oh, what is written is what shall happen. And this game seems to be like, you got to fight against that feeling that like you're not on like a track. If you see your track only leading toward like destruction and like desperation and want and sorrow, like that's like, you gotta fight that track. You know, you can change rails from time to time.
Mm-hmm. And I think the remake series is even a deeper exploration of this with what I was talking about at the end of, I think, last week's episode about Last Order, how it has these like whispers that are trying to keep you on track in remake, and eventually you like destroy them. And then what's going on in Rebirth is certain big story details, they're coming up earlier, or like they play out a little different. So it's playing with this idea of like, what if the real switched at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, this idea of trains being on a track and Destiny is something I feel the developers are like intentionally playing with and talking about in the whole compilation.
Okay. First I want to give a shout out to my friend Lou, who is playing Rebirth right now. And I don't know if she's played the original Final Fantasy VII. And she mentioned to me that she's like, I am so confused what's going on right now. And so when she heard about our series about Final Fantasy VII, she was like, oh, thank God. But my question to you, Junior Counselor, to get the most out of Rebirth, I might be answering my own question right now. Yeah. Do you need to have played the original in order to really get the most out of it?
I'm actually really glad you asked this because I've been thinking about this a lot.
Yeah.
That I've been now concurrently playing the end of Final Fantasy VII, Disc 2, which is, I haven't finished Rebirth, but I'm 99% sure it ends before Disc 2.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if you've yet to play Final Fantasy VII, I think the best way to play it is to play Remake and Rebirth.
Yeah.
Then the original.
Yeah.
Because I was having so much fun at this point in the game, like knowing the way that the characters were intended to be characterized, like being able to read these scenes playing out in their fully fleshed voices that have yet to be covered in the remake series. And so I think like just the canonical way to play it, if you have yet to play the original game, between now and whenever the final one comes out, I'm calling it Revival right now, is play the 2 remakes, the original game, and then eventually the final one. I think would be the most fun way to play it.
If you heard it here, folks. And
like nobody's other than your friend Lou is probably going to make it to this point without having played the original. But if you have a friend or like a kid who's a teen or whatever, like that wants to get into the series, I think that's probably the best way to do it.
All right. Shout out, Lou. You're a really great baker. So Mideel. Yeah. It's a Mako Lake. And you fly away from that junk. You just gotta leave that place behind. And our next generation, our next destination is going to be Junon. There is an underwater reactor. And as we know, Junon got a little fucked up last time we were there because of a weapon. Weapon attacked, and gosh darn it, where's the gun? Where's the Sister Ray?
Yes, sir. And this is the one session of my game that I played and did not get footage of.
That's all right.
The underwater reactor. So if you're on YouTube, you're just going to see Sean and I chatting for the next few minutes.
Lucky you. So, Junon reactor is, the underwater reactor is accessible via Junon. And, okay. Campers, if you do want to fight the super bosses in Final Fantasy VII, that being Ruby and Emerald weapon, you got to do something here in on the way to the reactor.
So convoluted.
There's an underwater tunnel,
which is I think one of my favorite like set pieces.
It looks great. It looks so good.
It's really well done. The way there's like creatures swimming in the background and actually movement in that pre-rendered background is really cool. I love like these 2 little pre-rendered backgrounds are my favorite in the game.
So you're fighting your way down and down and down. You're going underground, and you finally get to this underwater tunnel. And one of the enemies that you'll fight is a ghost ship, and it's literally a ghost ship. It's a pirate ship.
Yeah,
and you got to morph the ghost ship.
Probably the only time you need to use morph in the whole game. I don't know if there's anything like high quality you can get with it. Nothing you need for sure.
Nothing necessary, but I think there are some very useful things you can morph, but whatever. So to morph an enemy, you gotta whittle their health down to like the very last few hundred HP, and then you use morph, which is an attack. And if you kill them on that attack, which does like very, very little damage, like 100, for my like level 50 character, it was doing like 110 damage. But you morph them, you morph this ghost ship, and it turns into a guidebook. And that guidebook is something you're going to take it to the calm trader, and there's this dude, and he's got all of the most powerful materia in the game, but you trade it to him and he gives you the underwater materia. And that is going to allow you to fight Emerald Weapon without a 20-minute time limit.
Which we'll learn in a minute is this thing swimming under the ocean. If I had the opportunity to like interview some developers of this game, like I think one of my main questions would be, when you were making this and details like this, or like the process of getting Aerith's level 4 limit break,
like the
Tifa piano thing,
so convoluted,
would be like, so what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
so
how did you anticipate people discovering this?
Here's my hint, or here's my guess. He was taking percentages off those strategy guide sales. You got to.
Like, did they just... I mean, because, like, we talk a lot about, like, pre-internet playground rumors, like how you discover things in, like, say, an early Zelda game, right? But this is just, like, how would the first person have discovered some of these things without guides, without et cetera, you know? Like...
I don't have a politically correct answer for that, but I'll just say Spectrum. So we'll get to Emerald Weapon in a second. So the huge materia we learn is being transported on a submarine, and we find Reno from the Turks is loading that huge materia onto the submarine, and then away it goes. Shoof. Oh no, we need that. But then we got a fun little boss fight with an enemy called the Carry Armor.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like a cool robot. Yeah. It's a cool looking robot. And
is this one that could pick up your characters?
That's right. That's right. No big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of whatever. And then we commandeer a sub. And I hope you have notes on this because we don't have the Brady Games guide.
Yeah.
You're given an option. Do we want to subdue the crew, or do we want to use them to drive the sub? Does it make a difference?
It does not make a big difference. I let my guys live just because I'm not trying to just shed blood for...
I murdered them.
For blood. That makes sense. But but while we're underwater, before we get onto the submarine, there's a very important item that you can pick up called the Leviathan Scales. And that gains you access to the Doc Chow cave in Wutai.
Oh,
which gives you the steel as well materia, which is kind of useful, I guess, if you like to complete materia. What's that?
Is that a blue attachment?
I believe it's blue. And yeah, you attach it to like if I were to what would be a good example? I don't use it very often because at this point of the game, I'm like done stealing. I'm like too powerful. I don't care. And I'm also like, I've been playing this game for 60 hours. I'm ready to like just see these story beats and get through it. But the steel as well, you attach it to a materia, and like let's say you use Comet 2 on the group or on a single enemy, your character will use Comet 2 and then also steal from them.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, I guess, if you're into stealing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, again, I was just like so optimized at this point in the game. It's like, I know what does the most DPS to get me through this battle.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need to go looking for extra crap.
Speaking about Cloud's like kind of hazy past, we get another like reminder that Cloud gets motion sickness because when he gets into the submarine, he's getting a little motion sick, and he's gotta remember what Zach taught him to get through it. Okay, Josh, the sub battle, when you gain control of the submarine, I beat this literally in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it's broken,
but
it is broken. It's a seek and destroy.
It's just like you're chasing one submarine, and if you just boop, 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 and like you can just go right behind them, shoot a couple torpedoes, literally 10 seconds. And it's like, this is all, again, okay, Final Fantasy VII has several game engines built into it. We've got the chocobo races, we've got the motorcycle fights, we've got the snowboarding, we've got the Coral. I'm sorry, no, the Condor for Condor mini game. All of these little mini games have their own game engines built into it. This sub battle, I love the submarine mini game
conceptually
at Gold Saucer.
It's cool.
Once you start playing the mini game just to get like some GP or whatever it is, or just to kill time because life is meaningless, like it's fun. It's fun. But
no, I meant to like I don't remember the details, but this is like bugged, like literally broken. Like there's no way to lose the huge materia in this. Like you can lose this mini game and still like go back and get it. Like it's completely bizarrely broken. But yeah, the easiest way is like hit whatever button fires missiles immediately when it starts and it's over.
Immediately win. I was like so hyped to play it, and then it happened. And I was like, oh
yeah. I will note you mentioned all the different like mini games and the game engines built to them. Wait till you play Rebirth someday. Oh boy, howdy. Like my experience of it, some people are complaining about this online.
Yeah. Oh, what?
Like,
people complaining online?
Right. Screw off, guys. It's like every hour there's like some new thing. I'm like, they put Mario Kart in Final Fantasy VII. They put Fall Guys in Final Fantasy VII. They put, they put Horizon Zero Dawn in Final Fantasy. Like, it's so funny, like how clearly they took like the strengths of something else going like all over the history of gaming.
Yeah.
Like there's like a Star Fox 64 rail shooter that they put in place of
the roller coaster.
The roller coaster.
Yeah. Which is funny because in Final Fantasy VII 1997, I compared the roller coaster game to Star Fox Super Nintendo.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I love it. To the point that like I'm not going to say where it occurs. It's like a deeply hidden subquest that I was like, they put Alan Wake in Final Fantasy VII, which is like this, not the gameplay. They put the story concept, which Alan Wake is about a guy who, spoiler alert, it's like a 10-year-old game, not for part 2, but like he basically kind of accidentally writes his way into his own horror novel. And it's like historically in this area, like there are people who have trapped themselves in this ghost world of their own art. It's fun. Alan Wake is a fun recommend. But that some version of that it looks like has ended up in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I was like, yeah, dude, just feed it to me. The best of all gaming history is here.
It's like you're Homer in hell, and the conveyor belt of donuts are just coming your way.
That is the most apt description of that game I've ever heard. And like Homer, I'm like, no, I never run out.
This is heavy.
They want me. They want me to get tired of it, and I don't. But anyway, we can go get that huge materia after the sub fight.
That's right.
But now we've commandeered a sub.
Hell yeah, we got a submarine, baby. And that means that we now have access to another map, essentially, in the game.
Yeah.
And it's not an overworld.
It's an underworld.
It's underwater. And that's where we get to see Emerald Weapon. I want to talk about Emerald Weapon just a little bit.
Sure.
This is what helped establish my deep, deep love for kaiju movies.
And my fear of the depths.
Oh, I'm so scared of underwater monsters. Okay, so you're floating around in your submarine. Great original music for the underwater stuff too. I love the like the soft strings.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very good. But there's this gigantic green robot monster just swimming around, willy-nilly. And
dear God, save your game once you've commandeered the sub before you run into this thing.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Do not let yourself accidentally.
There's no autosave here.
No, you're fucked. If you see this thing and you're like, oh, cool. This is okay. I want to talk a little bit about like what Final Fantasy VII does differently than a lot of JRPGs. And this is kind of like the death rattle of the classic JRPG. In the sense that like random encounters are going to be kind of put aside for what Chrono Trigger does, right? Where you see the enemy and then the enemy attacks you and then starts the battle.
Yeah. Final Fantasy did that kind of in 11. It's an MMO, so that barely counts. But 12 is when they officially, I believe you could see enemies on the screen.
Yeah. But we learned our lesson in Disc 1 with the Midgar Zolom. If you see an enemy that is just like big enough to show up as its own character on the map, you might want to think twice about starting a fight with it. Okay, Emerald Weapon is one of the weapons that was released from the Northern Crater, along with Ultima Weapon and just capital W Weapon and Diamond Weapon and Ruby Weapon. You start your fight with Emerald Weapon. If you run into it, you're going to see a countdown clock in the corner.
Unless you got that underwater materia.
You know I did. But if I have my Brady Games official strategy guide right now, I could tell you how much HP Emerald Weapon has. I think it's something like 700,000 HP. Mm-hmm. It's one of those fights where it's like, it's there to teach you a lesson. It's not there to like be like a fun, like, oh, maybe I can beat this. You cannot beat it unless you come in prepared.
Yeah.
Like, you're not strong enough to just beat this guy.
And not even just come in prepared, like, oh, I've just leveled up a lot. Like, have a strategy that is known to work.
This is where Phoenix Summon comes into play for a lot of strategies. You know about this? Where
I know about it for the Ruby Weapon.
There's two pieces of materia, well, three pieces. Talking about Emerald, you need Final Attack linked with Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need the underwater materia. What Final Attack linked with Phoenix does. So say, Emerald Weapon kills your character that has that materia combination in their slots. Before they die, they are going to cast Phoenix. Not going to do that much damage on Emerald Weapon. But Phoenix also revives the party when it's used. So if you've got a mastered Phoenix materia with a mastered Final Attack materia, you're going to have a character that cannot be killed as long as they have MP. You need also to have enough MP. Essentially,
it'll trigger. It doesn't matter how leveled the Phoenix materia is.
No, like I said, it needs to be mastered.
Oh, okay.
It needs to be mastered because every, I don't know if we've really talked about this. When you get a level 1 summon, you can use it once per fight.
Right.
Every subsequent level up until mastering it, you'll get that as many uses of it, given you have enough MP. But it's very important if you want to get these things. Unfortunately, that the prize on beating these super bosses is pretty inconsequential.
Yeah, this is a sort of like a Final Fantasy endgame problem throughout the history of the series. Is like the prize you get, it's like you have to be strengthened past the point that it's useful to get it.
Exactly. And that's what stopped me from doing it. Because we'll get to it.
Yeah. It gives you master all something materia.
I think so.
Basically, it gives you like materia that I don't know if it gives. I forget if it gives you one of each color master materia, but that's basically what it gives you. Something that like you equip this on somebody, and they can use like anything.
Yeah. Just use a Game Shark.
I'm just curious, like if you've beaten Emerald Weapon, what your strategy was. Mine, if I recall, and I didn't beat it this playthrough. I didn't mess with like any of this big time suck game stuff. But what my memory was, I leveled up a lot, got a lot of HP pluses.
Oh yeah.
Mastered Knights of the Round.
Yep.
Mastered 2 mimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just cast Masters or Knights of the Round, and then just mimed it a couple times, and basically just like let my TV sit there because Knights of the Round takes like 3 minutes to cast. And after
God bless 3x speed for that.
yeah, and I think like after 3 rounds, it died or something like that.
Yeah, that's the most surefire way of doing it, for sure.
Yeah.
Emerald Weapon compared to Ruby Weapon, very easy. We'll get to Ruby Weapon a little bit later. We covered Emerald Weapon. The submarine leads you to a couple other important things underwater. One being a ship, a plane called the Jalinka.
I believe it's Gelnica. Yeah, I think
it's a Shinra plane that had crashed. It's now underwater. This is one of the better spots to level up your characters.
Yeah, I believe this is like kind of the strongest random encounters you can run into outside of the
crater.
Dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the I always thought it was the Galinka. But on this plane, you find what do you find there? There's some
Lots
good
of
stuff.
goodies.
Yeah.
Most importantly, the double cut materia is in that bad boy. That's really the main reason you need to go in there. Because you put that on Cloud, you just keep giving him like power sources or whatever, and that's again DPS, literal damage per second. I'm pretty sure that's the way to go.
Oh, speaking of like powering up your characters, there's an item that you can buy from the Gold Saucer's battle square called the Champion Belt, plus 30 to strength.
Yeah,
it is overpowered. It's great. It's wonderful. I we'll get to the battle square a little bit later.
Yeah,
just a little bit. We've talked about it already, but that's going to be important. For
only other like real detail about the Galnica crash is one, the monsters in there are very Hojo Experiment-esque.
That's right. It's almost like they were transporting monsters to somewhere else.
Right. And you run into Reno and Rude and have a fight with them down there. Again, this is one of the small portions of the game I didn't capture, so I don't remember if there's anything really important story-wise.
It's an optional fight. You don't have to fight them even. But great spot to just kind of camp around and level your characters up. You're going to get a lot of XP and a lot of AP from these bad boys.
Yeah.
And there's some powerful materia and weapons. I think you can get...
I believe it's Sid's triple growth weapon.
Yes, the scimitar.
That's another very important item if you want to like really max, do your min-max nonsense.
Only triple growth
weapon? I believe there's a cloud weapon, I think Apocalypse.
Oh, that's right, that you get from the Hidden Forest that I did not bother with either.
I did not do that either.
Sorry,
get
campers.
To that later.
Sorry, campers. We've got things to do.
I did not 100% the game this run through. No. Anyways, that's basically the Galnica. Just figured we'd talk about that when we first get the sub.
Yeah.
What's next?
So on the radio, we get some chatter saying to go to Junon. They're transporting the final piece of the huge materia. There, you get there, you miss the plane that's shooting off. It's headed to Rocket Town.
I don't even know if I went and did that.
Yeah, you don't need to.
I think I just went straight to Rocket Town.
The game gives you those little breadcrumbs if you want to see a cute little hidden, quote unquote, hidden animation, cinematic. But Rocket Town, you get a fight with Rude, and this is actually you can steal something from Rude in this fight.
Can you now?
Yeah, you can steal the Zedric armor piece, which is incredibly good.
I think defense. I did steal that. Yeah.
So, okay, here's the plan. The rocket, it's loaded with a materia bomb. They are going to do the plot of Armageddon.
Yeah, this is very confusing if you got all of the huge materia, because I don't think any of the script changes to be like, hey, we lost all the huge materia, but we're going to launch this rocket anyway and see what happens. I think
there's three pieces of huge materia. There's one in Corel, one in Condor, and then one underwater. This is just a materia bomb, I guess.
I was very confused because I had all the huge materia, and everything I understood from what plays out here is like, they're like, we got to stop them from throwing the huge materia into Meteor. Is there a fourth piece that's on here?
There is so let's just go through the
walk
major,
me through it. I don't. Yeah.
What happens is Cloud and the gang. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Cloud and Sid, and I believe I had Barrett with me for this one. They accidentally get blasted off into space. Whoops, we're astronauts.
It's quite silly.
It is quite silly. But okay, so the rocket that's been looming over Rocket Town, the Leaning Tower of Rocket Town, it's apparently it's still a functional rocket. They blasted off. Palmer of the Shinra Incorporated.
Which will remind, he's the head of the space program. And that's sort of his bit throughout the game.
That's right.
He's like, can we please get some money and attention to the space program?
Right. And can I get some lard in my tea?
Yeah, man.
So Shira, how are we saying her name? Sid's abused woman partner. She's fixing the autopilot on the rocket, so they don't have to pilot it or anything. It's just a robot saying, go to the meteor. If this rocket takes off, there goes Rocket Town, man. Like, that is just gonna be incinerated. But whatever.
Quite silly.
This is where we get to play the Sid's Code Logic game. To unlock the materia that's in there. Basically, the gist of it is like Sid does not remember his own password, but he's got some like clues for you that you're supposed to work through. It's incredibly stressful. You've only got a limited amount of time to come to the conclusion, and he doesn't give you all of the hints until very close to the end.
Yeah, he's just like remembering as you go, right?
Camp video games tips and tricks. Just look up the password. It's not fun to figure this stuff out. That is not fun.
I forget if I did or not.
So here's what we really learned. Okay, you go up, you're blasting off into space. You know what blows up? The tank that Cheryl was working on the first time this was supposed to go out.
Yeah, Sid, you dumb son of a bitch.
Sid gets trapped. Cheryl
maybe try being
right.
a little less misogynist in the future.
Yeah. And so they're the gang, they get this piece of Mako materia, the materia bomb, which turns out to be it's Bahamut Zero.
Oh, that's what's in there. Okay.
That's what the actual huge materia piece is. But so the rocket is completely you want to talk about the space segment? Like basically like they go up into space for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to bring Barrett along was the same reason that I brought him along for Buchenhagen's apparatus. It's just like, I want the leader of Avalanche to have a glimpse at the planet that he's been dedicating his life to protect. That's the way I'm kind of headcanoning it. I was like, Barrett gets to go because he's the freedom fighter, and you got to know what you're fighting for.
He's like, once you've lost Aerith, he seems the most committed to like the fight for the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody else is just kind of dealing with their own stuff.
That's right. Well, Barrett's intentions are the most cemented. He is fighting for Marlene. He's for the youth. The dumb youth.
And we can talk more about what everybody's fighting for later. I brought Vincent for some dumb reason.
Vincent, because he's cool as shit.
Yeah, he's just cool.
It's cool to bring guns into space.
It's cool to fire a gun in a spaceship.
The rocket is not a success.
Nope.
We get a great shot of the people of Midgar as they see this explosion hit the meteor, and then nothing happens. Mm-hmm. It's all the people of Midgar basically going like, okay, I think we should prepare to die now. Yeah.
It is really, I think, well done in that regard, that you get this sense of hopelessness sweeping across the land now that Shinra's final plan to save them, and only plan, and a bad plan at that, has failed.
I would have shot the Sister Ray at it a bunch. Like, that's what I would do if I was Rufus.
Yeah.
But whatever. Okay. This, though, what this does, this is helping cement Sid's resolve.
Yeah.
Sid got his wish, his lifelong dream of being the first man, well, second or third man, if you really want to count like the other guys that were there with him.
Yeah.
But Sid is, I would say this cures Sid's cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, he also says he's like, man, fuck magic, science, baby.
Yeah.
So that made me like him a little bit more because I'm also a man of science.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make up for his past, misogyny. And
no. It's not a redemption arc.
Yeah.
It is just his resolve.
Yeah, his only reason for coming around on Shara is like, oh, I guess I should have listened to that dumb bitch.
Yeah, that bitch was right, I guess. Fuck.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man.
He should have been like, damn it, bitch, why didn't you tell me you were right?
The only reason he can find value in women's existence is if they do work to save his life. He's kind of a dumb POS still, but...
For sure. But, okay, so doesn't work, and everyone's super feeling the apocalypse vibes now. But you know what? Let's go to Buchenhagen.
Right.
Bugenhagen urges Cloud to remember what they're fighting for. And for Cloud, it's Aerith.
Yeah, this is does this beat of the game's story just feel odd? It's aimless to you?
It's if you're a fan of Seinfeld, I would say this is the yada yada part of the game.
Yeah.
Like they're like, yada yada yada, they get the stuff, blah blah blah.
And it's like the yada yada part is kind of big in that it gives you the huge detail of like Aerith has done the work to try to save the planet from meteor. We'll talk about like what leads us up to that a little bit first. With Bugenhagen, if you don't, Sean made a I don't remember face, but you go to Bugenhagen.
Yeah.
I believe you agree to leave the big materia with him.
That's right. Yeah.
Materia. Does that happen first?
You leave it in his apparatus.
The part that I'm a little loose on is like you have to get this thing in the bottom of the ocean, right?
Oh, the ancient key. No, not the ancient key. Or
Yeah,
is it? Yeah.
And I had already got it on accident when
Same.
looking for the Gelnica. And like you float up to it and Cloud says something.
This looks old. It's probably important. Something along those lines.
Yeah, like that. I don't know if you have Bugenhagen with you, like if you haven't gotten it yet. So we both did this out of order and don't really know.
Yeah.
Like it makes
I think the
sense.
only way to play this game in its proper order is to literally just follow a strategy guide. Like, because with this big world and like so much room for exploration and just like trial and error, if you were to play this as the game's like script like suggests, you got to really know what you're doing. You got to like, you can't miss a detail and you got to go.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just breadcrumb to breadcrumb.
Yeah. But Bugenhagen sends you on this quest.
He's like, go get the thing for the stuff and we'll go to the place.
Yeah. He's like, well, we gotta have a MacGuffin to have some way to make the story move forward.
That's right.
And it turns out it's this key that we both accidentally found.
Yeah.
Somehow you're told to go take it to the City of the Ancients.
That's right.
I have no idea how I knew to do this other than just past experience having done it before.
Yeah. But we get to take Bugenhagen onto the Highwind, which is fun. Because he hangs out on the deck of the Highwind, like which is like exposed air, just like flapping through, and he's having a great time. To get into like something that we kind of are led to understand is that Aerith died on purpose.
Yes.
And
it's like the one takeaway here.
it's like, it's a very important, and this is going right back toward like the Christ waifu.
Yeah. Aerith is your Christ foo.
Is that like she, forgive them for they know not what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way. Okay. I feel like this is like, we're going to get into a little like blood magic talk where you cannot make a deal with the devil without shedding a little blood. Like you got to cut your palm and shake the hand.
Uh-huh.
And to get the black materia, you had to sacrifice somebody. In our case, we sacrificed our cat robot. But in like what, as it was designed to
it was supposed to be a human
kill
sacrifice.
somebody.
Yeah.
Sacrifice is a very important recurring theme in Final Fantasy VII,
Mm-hmm.
in both literal and like metaphorical terms.
Yeah.
For Aerith to summon Holy, she had to enter the life stream, I assume, because the holy materia that she had in her headband, as far as she knew, was good for nothing. And I think that for it to be effective, it had to go into the life stream with her. I don't understand it completely.
The way I understand it is like when she was on that altar where she was being murdered, she was also like saying the prayer to the planet that casts holy.
Yeah.
And what we learn from this flashback that will occur with Bugenhagen in this like viewing portal in
the FMV player
inside
inside
the City of the Ancients, where we can like
so
watch a projection of Aerith's death.
Yep.
we learn that I understand she was casting Holy, and somebody says something there. I believe it's Cloud that like she's casting Holy to protect us against Meteor, but her message or her spirit, whatever, in the live stream got stuck, and that you have to like kill the cancer of Sephiroth to let that message finish and come out. Let that like spell finish being cast.
And we're gonna see what I believe is the actual like the physical embodiment of Holy in the end boss fight.
Yeah,
we'll get to that later. But yeah, just kind of coming to the realization that Aerith knew she was gonna die somehow, and that just like kind of like is just a little more of a gut punch to be like, oh man, what a nice lady.
Yeah. She deserved better.
Yeah.
Everything about her life is tragic, and she was just this kindest, sweetest thing to the end.
That's right.
It's almost like some other, Jewish guy they crucified for nothing.
Okay. So yeah, we go back to the City of the Ancients. We see the FMV of Aerith, and Bugenhagen was just like, I'm gonna stick with you guys now. What does this actually do in the game when we go through all of this? Is it just to get this information, or does that unlock something for us? Or I don't know.
It's just how we advance the plot.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
You don't get anything out of this other than the detail you need to understand the ending, which is that Aerith has cast Holy, and it is not like her prayer is not making it to the core of the planet to cast it, and therefore the planet cannot protect itself from Meteor yet.
Yes, very well. Back on the Highwind. This is where Yuffie's motion sickness is brought back up, and Cloud gives Yuffie some advice. Number 1, stay nervous. Number 2, move around. Number 3, stretch. Number 4, don't read books. That's Cloud's advice for battling motion sickness.
The reading books thing is huge.
Yes. I remember my grandfather gave me some motion sickness advice when I was a kid. And if you're on the road and you're feeling a little car sick, he said, focus on something extremely far away.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't look like it's moving the way that other things around you are moving. And that'll help your body kind of like reacclimate to the movement.
I have to like be constantly doing that to not get car sick. Yeah. It sucks.
I'm lucky that I don't really get motion sickness. I think I should have been a fighter pilot.
Definitely. But this advances the plot before we go back on the Highwind by, again, Kate Sith just being like, hey, I'm your connection to what Shinra's up to.
Oh, speaking of Kate Sith, I love this detail. Okay. We find out that Kate Sith told Elmira that Aerith died.
Oh.
He's this fucking robot cat that had
or Reeve would have, right?
I think it was
not the cat.
I mean, that's a good point. It was probably Reeve. I just imagine like blah, 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 like this stupid fat robot is just like, oh, your daughter's dead. Or wait, I guess if he's like, his daughter's dead.
Yeah, that's how he talks in Rebirth. But no, like, because remember his leverage initially to stay with the party was kidnapping Marlene. So, and Elmira's Marlene's caretaker.
Yeah,
it all makes sense. But anyway, he's like, oh, by the way, remember that big cannon? They moved it to Shinra headquarters, which is a fun little escalation. But this is basically this little side quest we did to learn about Aerith casting Holy was all just to like propel us into this.
Yeah. They're like, we should talk about Aerith again.
Yeah.
I just loved. Yeah, when Kate Sith was like, don't worry, I told Elmira. And I was just like, oh, this jerk.
Nah, Reeve's a little more emotionally adjusted than. Let's not get into how it works between Reeve and the cat.
Actually, I had a thought about
Very
that.
complicated and confusing.
I always imagine whenever Reeve is taking control of Kate Sith, he's like going into his office and like behind his desk, he's got like a PlayStation controller and he's just like playing Kate Sith. Yeah, he's just gaming.
It might be that. I mean, I don't know. We could do a whole episode about that if we wanted.
Okay, so we are now to go to okay. So Bugenhagen leading a couple more details about Holy. Casting Holy is kind of a gamble on the planet because Holy is there to eradicate any threats to the planet. Who's the main threat to the planet right now besides Sephiroth and the meteor? Humanity.
Yeah, it's Shinra, baby. Shinra and all the Mako draining.
If I understand it right, like casting Holy could lead to the total annihilation of the human race on the planet. And there's a quote that it's up to the planet to decide.
Yeah.
So, you know, campers, go plant a tree.
Yeah.
Go plant a couple trees.
Plant a tree, be nice to the planet because you never know when it's going to take its revenge.
That's right. Is mankind worthy is really like kind of that question. The white materia, it glows pale green if our wish reaches the planet. So, it's just these little details that you're like, okay, I think we need to do something to make the materia glow green.
Yeah, like in that flashback, Cloud's like it's glowing, but like it hasn't quite. It's not glowing hard enough. Or somehow they learn like it hasn't reached the planet quite yet.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if anyone else had used Holy besides Aerith, like if that would change the circumstances or if it would lead to a different result. Never really.
Yeah. Well, and as next week is when we'll release our Advent Children episode.
Yeah.
We discussed this idea that Aerith in her death has become sort of like the queen of the life stream. I don't know if that's sort of the status she immediately gained upon her death or if that comes at the conclusion of this game.
The Queen of Queens.
Yeah, there's Aerith is, as a Cetra, is deeply connected to the life stream and the planet. Yeah. So I think we're supposed to kind of assume she's the only one who could have cast this. Was
that material like an heirloom of the Cetra? Probably, you think about these like details where it's like she's always had it, which means that she had it as a child, which means like was like little baby Aerith, like they were like, oh, and here's your little baby.
This feels like one of those things the remake series is going to resolve.
Yeah.
If not in what I have left of Rebirth, probably in Revival, the final game. You heard it here first. Anyway, we then moved to Shinra has moved the Sister Ray cannon.
Yes. It's been retrofitted to Midgar's Mako stream. Yeah. So they've got to hook it up to the generators so that they can shoot a Mako stream blast.
It's awesome.
At the Northern Crater is their plan so that they can try to kill Sephiroth.
And what do you know? As soon as we get back on the highway, who shows up?
Diamond.
The diamond weapon.
But one more little detail.
Yeah.
The Sister Ray, it shoots what Scarlet calls Mako shells. I just thought that was super cool. I like big guns. Diamond weapon. Diamond weapon's awesome.
Yeah.
It's man, this looks like a Power Rangers villain. You know, like you got to get the Megazord to fight this guy. He's got these shoulder pads that are like the size of the Sister Ray cannon, and it's walking through the ocean toward Midgar, and it's up to the team to prepare and to meet Diamond Weapon on the shores to fight it before it reaches Midgar.
Yeah, and it's quite looming that you have to wait for this thing to walk across the ocean.
It's so cool.
For, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes at regular speed.
Yeah.
So it's fun to just like stand at the edge of like the coast where Calm is and set your camera so you can just see it in the distance.
Watch it approach. Love it.
But it's like a mildly underwhelming fight, I feel, though. Really like for all the build up, given how leveled you probably are at this point, if you've been poking around enough. you know?
If I'm remembering correctly from my playthrough, I didn't make note of it, but I don't think normal weapons affect diamond weapon. I think only materia hurts it. I might be wrong about that, but that's a it's a feeling I had about it. I wasn't sure if that's true, but fighting diamond, I think you could steal some stuff from diamond weapon as well, but I don't know what because I don't have my handy dandy strategy guide. But let's see. Oh, is this where we see diamond weapon attacks Midgar and kills Rufus as far as we know in the game?
Yes. The end of this fight, it's gonna take its last gasp of shooting a bunch of diamond bullets from its shoulders or something at Midgar, and we are led to believe that this is the end of Rufus Shinra, as the office, windows are just blasted with diamond weapons attack from, miles away, which I'm going to make one tiny critique of Rebirth, is that the scale of the world in some ways feels smaller if you're paying attention to like distances and like how far away you can see.
Yeah.
Because they did their best to make it so like you can go everywhere. So like it takes a minute, or 2 minutes to run from like Calm to the Chocobo Ranch.
Yeah.
and it's like and it gives you a measure of meters, and like the whole world is like 10 meters wide.
But
so it's a little odd. Where in this you feel like, holy smokes, that thing was able to fire like all these shots. Like you think of Calm and Midgar probably at least dozens, if not 100 miles apart.
Sure.
Because of the way it's like abstractly scaled.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's way more impressive in that regard.
In the original.
And that like, wow, this thing fired from this coast to Midgar and hit the president right in the brain, basically. Yeah. And the whole thing is happening concurrently with the Sister Ray Mako whatever thing shooting at the Northern Crater. And basically it's kind of like a standoff where everybody takes everybody down.
Yeah.
Because they shoot through diamond weapon after it has shot into Midgar.
Convenient.
Yeah, and it also takes down the shield that's been protecting Sephiroth's hiding spot in the Northern Crater.
Yeah, his hidey hole. Yeah, this FMV was one of my favorites as a kid growing up. Just the operation of the Sister Ray, seeing all the Mako go into it as a power source, and then like the town or the city of Midgar just goes blackout.
Yeah, I love that.
Great detail because that's just like, don't forget that's their power source.
Also straight out of Evangelion. Operation.
Oh yeah.
Yamoto or something.
That was actually implemented as a real operation during the tsunamis.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And they got it from Evangelion.
I mean, why not,
so it does the same thing that happens in that episode of Evangelion where it's like, we're going to direct all power and everything blacks out around it to focus this one blast.
Super good.
Works very effectively.
Yes.
Lots of big FMVs here. And then we decide, instead of going to fight Sephiroth right now.
Yeah.
We find out that Hojo is mucking around with this cannon.
Yes.
And goes, actually, we can use this to make Sephiroth even more powerful by sucking all this Mako and shooting it into his crater.
What is Hojo's endgame? Like, is he really just a mad scientist at this point? Like,
he's a mad scientist who wants his baby boy's project to play out.
Yeah.
Like it's like the pride in his son, which I don't know if we know yet.
Yeah.
That
Hojo's Sephiroth's dad.
Yeah. So he's like, well, let's go. Let's do this Midgar attack thing.
The one other thing, speaking of Sephiroth's lineage, now that we have the submarine, you want to go to Lucrezia's cave?
That's a good point. That was the kind of the next thing I wanted to bring up.
Because I didn't know if you do not go to the cave in Disc 2, you did not get Vincent's ultimate weapon or his final limit break.
Okay, that explains a lot because I was confused. I went in disc 3 and I got
same.
the cutscene, but I thought I was supposed to get items. And I
No
did not.
goodies.
Okay.
That's you're supposed to go in disc 2 first and then go back in disc 3 if I'm correct. If I believe, I think I'm correct.
That's very helpful.
It sucks and I'm mad. But yeah, okay. Yeah, Hojo, he's commandeering all of Midgar's Mako, and the gang decides to do an air raid of Midgar. But yeah, you want to talk about Lucretia's Cave? Just kind of like that. This is where we really find out that, like, okay,
Yeah.
I always thought it was Lucretia, but I've heard it pronounced Lucretia and other things, and I really don't know. I know that spoiler. I'm sorry, not spoiler alert, but actually trigger warning. The first use of the name Lucretia I've ever heard was there is an opera from 1946 called The Rape of Lucretia.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opera in 2 acts. I don't know anything about it. I just know that name showed up, and if you think about what
has implications,
Yeah.
I think here.
Yeah, it's so okay. We go to Lucretia's Cave.
Did you get there by Chocobo or sub?
I went by sub.
Okay, because I did the same because I did not deal with Chocobo breeding.
I did, but we'll get to that later.
I did it offline a little bit, and I screwed something up and was like, forget this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went by there. There's a cave where the sub can lift you up, and it's just a waterfall and a little pond.
Brilliant. I love it. I love this type of navigation of the world where it's like you got to go underwater to get to it. But what kind of vexed me, because I went to this portion in disc 2, but there's no clear port for you to
I have the footage
sub.
playing on the YouTube video right now of me trying to park the sub.
Like you gotta be very, very like lucky to find this like one panel where you can land it. Anyway,
there's a couple of weird moments like this in my playthrough that made me wonder, like, is this a problem with the controls in the port, or was it always this bad?
That's a good question.
Hard to do, but eventually I got out of the sub and into the waterfall.
Yes. Okay. So, you walk in and like, it's like basically we get to see a little bit of Vincent's backstory as related through like the spiritual memory of Lucretia.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not alive, but like her spirit lives on. I don't understand it completely. I would love to see how this is retro conned.
Filled out.
Yeah.
If you come in at first with just Cloud, he just goes Sephiroth. Nothing happens, and then when you leave, he says Vincent. It's like the cave speaking to you or something. But, it gives you a flashback. Is this one? Is there no talking in this? I'm watching it right. I'm watching the playback right now.
It's we get to see Vincent as he's a Turk, and he's with Lucretia, and she leaves him for Hojo. And what basically happens is that Hojo introduces Genova cells to Sephiroth in the womb.
Yes.
And
that's like what makes Sephiroth different than all these other Genova cell infused or Mako infused soldiers.
Speaking of Mako infusion, so right now, Dune is making big things in the theaters. And people who use the spice have blue eyes that glow. That shows how special they are.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar, Josh?
Yeah. It's almost like everything is derivative of everything.
Mm-hmm. I just thought that like that's not a coincidence. Especially there's an enemy in Final Fantasy VII that looks just like the sandworm from Dune.
Oh my god. It's named something funny that like is even like a reference of like Dune sandworm or something. I made note of the other day. It's like this is my other question for the developers is how much were you guys into Frank Herbert's Doom when you were making this Dune? Yeah, for sure. But I like this cutscene is framed stylistically in like almost like a like kabuki or silent film
Ooh,
format.
Good way of putting it. Yeah.
That the visuals play and then it'll cut away to like Vincent filling in the necessary like text gaps of what you need. And it's like I've said this all along about like this cutscene and the other big Easter egg one we'll talk about with Zach is like everything you need to know to understand the full characterization's there.
Yeah.
Even though it's done in this very abstract way.
That's a great way of putting
it. Or stylistic way.
So this is the foundation of Vincent's regrets.
Yeah.
This is what's haunting him is that he basically could have prevented the birth of the devil.
Yeah.
But
and like protected Lucretia from like the father of the devil.
Yeah. But he didn't act when he could have, and then he gets experimented on, which leads to him becoming a Dracula.
Yeah.
And okay. That's basically it. Is that like we get a little bit more information on Sephiroth's lineage, Vincent's backstory, and who Lucretia is. Okay, Jenova is not Sephiroth's mommy. Like, yeah, Lucretia is, but he doesn't seem to know that at all. He was raised by Hojo, sort of. Did they go into that too in Rebirth remake? Like of like Sephiroth's younger days and because I think
Crisis Core.
I know that in Crisis Core they talk about him being a child soldier.
Yeah,
that he was like 10 years old in combat and just like doing all that bad boys good stuff.
Yeah, what I really am disappointed in with Rebirth is that there's lore that's now been established in Ever Crisis that has made its way into Rebirth.
Come on.
Which really stinks. Ever Crisis and First Soldier.
No one played that.
First Soldier was their attempt at making a battle royale, which actually it kind of was fun. Like I played that more than Ever Crisis for sure. Ever Crisis, I opened it up, played 15 minutes to go, oh, this is microtransaction nonsense, and never opened it again.
Yes,
but
same.
There's there's like different parts of like the compilation that Ever Crisis tells, and one is a prequel about Sephiroth and some other characters, and they've brought those characters into Rebirth, and that was like
there is enough characters in Final Fantasy VII.
God dang it.
We do not need more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to Midgar. The gang parachutes into Midgar.
Yeah, so sick.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If you want to breed a gold chocobo, you absolutely have to get the W item materia. That is because of the W item glitch. Josh, do you know how to do that?
Yeah. So in my playthrough, I decided because I was like, at this point, I was like, I just got to finish this game. I decided, you know what? If it's a glitch or a bug that existed in the original release that I'm exploiting, by all means, it's fair game.
It is.
So I did this. I got the W item materia, and what you can do is if you use it lets you use 2 items in a row.
That's right. That's the intended use of W item.
It can be 2 different items.
Yes.
But if you use
one,
let's say you use a mega elixir,
and then you select another one, but you don't use it, then you cancel it.
Yeah.
Then that first item that you used will go up 1.
Yep.
You can do that with any item that can be used in battle. So think mega elixirs, think hypers, think perhaps chocobo greens.
Yeah.
That's where it really gets into it. But basically, if you're going to get a gold chocobo without using this, let's call it an exploit more than a glitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take you like 1 million gil. I'm not even exaggerating.
Okay.
But the gang they're on search and destroy mode for Hojo. They parachute into Midgar. Okay. You don't have to go straight to him. First, there's going to be an optional fight with the Turks. I did not fight them because I said, you know what? Peace, my brothers.
I fought him. I said, let's finish this, which I think is maybe the actual choice they give you. I was like, screw this. I hate these guys. They're going down.
Oh, we love the Turks. They're so charming. But okay, here's where you can do a little bit of backtracking if you want to go back to Shinra Tower and get Kate Sith's ultimate weapon. Which
I don't know if I did that.
I
went there, but I don't know if I got this weapon.
It's you have to check. So in the recreation room on one of the top floors of Shinra Tower.
Oh, you got to really go in there.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
And I did. You got to go up to the rec room, and if during your first visit to Shinra Tower, if you checked the one of the lockers that's in the rec room area, if you checked it in disc 1, it'll say it's locked, and you go back, you'll get Kate Sith's HP shout, his ultimate weapon. Blah blah blah. I literally only used Kate Sith when the game forced me to.
Yeah,
I'm never
going to use
elected
that nerd.
for him to be in my team. But you can also get Sid Highwind's Glow Lance, which
Interesting.
is just another weapon. I don't think it has any special features. It's just a higher power.
Yeah.
But okay, we find out that Hojo has manufactured his own kaiju killer, his own Mecha Godzilla. He's got the Proud Claude. Where's that name coming from?
So bizarre.
I mean,
I'd love to know like the translation on that.
I would think it would be called the Proud Cloud, but
Right.
it's not.
Like they made some like robot version of this cloud character that they've done some sort of, I don't know, man.
Yeah. So sorry, that's not Hojo that's piloting this. This is Heidegger and Scarlet.
Right.
It's an anti-weapon weapon essentially. It's the same size as diamond weapon. And it's a really big boss. It's cool. It's fun. It looks good. And if you like this fight with the Proud Claude, it's you can go back and fight it again and again and again and again in the Battle Squares special tournaments.
Interesting.
Because we'll get to it.
I think don't quote me this because I haven't reviewed it in the footage quite yet. But I believe this is one of those like sort of towards the end game bosses you can cast freeze on and just wipe the floor with him.
Wow.
And let's I don't remember. Maybe one of his parts. I just remember this being very easy.
It looks so cool. I love
but
Proud
it's
Claw.
cool. Yeah.
It's a good mech design. You defeat it, and you know what? Rest in peace, Scarlet. Rest in peace, Heidegger.
Yeah, they're the worst.
Patooey. Let's see. Hojo is the next target after defeating the Proud Claude. Hojo he's working the sound booth over there.
He's working front of house. Yeah. He's just being grumpy about like, oh God, if they would just turn their gosh darn amps down, it would sound good in
I
here.
can't believe this bassist wants to do direct input. Fucking amateur. So he calls Cloud the failure Sephiroth clone. And he kind of reiterates what we learned about Lucretia, that he injected Genova cells into Lucretia during pregnancy. Also, we need to protect in vitro fertilization at all costs in America.
Because for some reason,
some of the dumbest men in the world have decided that it's a threat.
This is a thing we need to stop.
Jesus Christ. Because like if there were no in vitro fertilization, then we wouldn't have Sephiroth.
I know. And then we wouldn't have this game.
But we do have, we have a fun multi-part boss fight with Hojo. He, in classic Jekyll and Hyde the fashion, he's also injected himself with Genova cells, and we first fight him in his human form, and then we fight him in a slightly mutated form, and then we fight him in I think it's 3 parts. it's a cool fight, and it's a fitting end to Hojo once you kill him. Just the fact that like I mean, I could talk about Resident Evil again, where it's just like, yes, the mad scientist who engineered a bioweapon has decided that the only thing left to do is to inject it into himself for the last stand. It is classic villain trope, and it's good. It tastes good on this one.
Yeah, and it is. I think this is one of the last sort of challenging fights in the game, because your first time through, and even me, I'd kind of forgotten. Like you don't know how many phases of this there's going to be and how difficult it's going to be.
That's right.
I don't think I had much trouble with this, but I did. Like, I think there's a third phase, and I was like, oh, shoot. Like, when it's like the ghost form or whatever his final thing is.
It looks cool, man.
Yeah, and this is also where we get all of the, like, oh, Sephiroth's my son. I have to feed him all the power he wants because this is blah, blah, blah. I'm on his team.
Must be nice to have a supportive father.
Yeah.
Now, campers, if you're playing this segment, bring Barrett with you because you can get his ultimate weapon here. On the way up to Hojo, you'll find, what's it called? The missing score.
Yeah.
And he's even like, oh, wait. Oh, boy, I can't wait to use this on Hojo. So after you defeat Hojo, rest in peace, Shinra. Like, that's the last remnant of Shinra, as far as we know.
That's endgame for Shinra. That's final. That's a wrap. Final casting call or whatever on Shinra. They're gone.
And that also leads us to the end of Disc 2. Is after this segment. Cloud, he's like giving a pep talk to the crew on the Highwind after they've escaped Midgar and all of its machinations. And Cloud asks, why do we all fight? You know, we've got Barrett's like Marlene. I think it's either, I think it's Sid said, I'm sorry. Cloud is fighting for revenge. He wants revenge against Sephiroth.
I was a little shocked that, like, I was like, even after all this work to recover your, connection, your childhood friend, you're just like, it's about me and him, me and this motherfucker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe the original game doesn't do enough to show the importance of, like, how, I don't know, Cloud's, like, town being burnt down by Sephiroth is. That's something I'm seeing in the remake series is a little more like dialed in than this.
Not surprising.
Yeah, that like it's he's a little more like that motherfucker killed my mom.
Yeah.
Burnt down my town. And in this he's just like, it's just revenge.
Question, Josh.
Yeah.
Any insight into Cloud's father?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think we've had any that I've seen.
I've never heard a whisper about him, and I think it's also like this is classic hero's journey.
Yeah, like
most of the time, think about every superhero or Disney hero, dead parent, one or the other, or both.
Yeah,
and
I think what really caps off my like disconnect from Cloud's motivation is that when he says, I want to kill Sephiroth. He just tags on like, saving the planet just happens to be part of it.
It's right.
Like he's characterized a little different.
He's talking like Disc 1 Cloud right now.
Yeah, that's like I don't see the character growth in the way he's talking here.
I think the fellas over at Square are gonna do a nice little revamp on.
It's already being cleaned up from what I'm seeing. Yeah, he's coming around as a person a little more in the remake series.
Barrett, of course, he says he's fighting for Marlene, baby.
Yeah.
And then Tifa, she says she's fighting for Cloud, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Can a woman please have a motivation besides a man?
Well, Yuffie does.
That's true. Yeah. Yuffie, another person, motivation greatly fleshed out. She's constantly hunting for materia because she's like, I need to strengthen Wutai in our fight against Shinra.
That rocks.
Yeah.
But then what happens here is that the gang disperses. They go their ways to kind of solidify their intention. If you're a team leader, it's really good to do this with your crew sometimes to say, hey, like everyone take a break. Go do whatever it is that you feel like you should be doing right now. That's not this. And in Tifa's case, that's banging Cloud.
Yeah, just hanging out and banging Cloud on a bluff with the high wind overhead, I guess.
We got a great little scene here. What were you saying?
Oh, maybe you can fill me in. This scene that you're about to talk about is, for whatever reason, I've gotten in my head that canonically this is like fade to black and they bang at some point.
Yeah, Cloud Raw Dogs Tifa.
And I don't know what the evidence is for that. If you have it, bring it up. But
yeah, actually there is.
Okay, hit me.
Okay, so they all go their separate ways. You know, Yuffie supposedly goes to Wu Tai, Eric goes to see Marlene, Sid goes to yell at Shira, whatever. But Tifa says to Cloud, do you think the stars can hear us? And she says, words aren't the only thing that tell people what you're thinking. And
hugs do too. Special hugs.
Yeah, mouth hugs. No, but so there's just this like, yeah, it's deeply implicated that they bang while the high wind is just hovering above them. But back in the high wind, once everyone's regrouped, Tifa is she kind of like she says to I forget who was there, but she was like, wait, you could see us? Like she says that to them. Thing. Yeah. And you're just like, see what? Like, what would you be ashamed of? Or like, what would you be embarrassed that they saw?
Because on top of that, Kate Sith has to have like a lot of cameras built in. And who knows if that data is being sent to a server somewhere. I don't know how Reeve's controlling it now that Midgar has been mostly destroyed. Who knows what's captured?
Well, luckily,
we'll leave that to the /fic audience.
Luckily, there's a lot of laws going into place against revenge porn at this point, so we don't need to worry too much about it. But Cloud, there's just like, so yeah, Cloud and Tifa, they wake up, they're sitting next to each other, they're having kind of like pillow talk where Cloud's like, you know, it's time to go, and she's like, come on, let's just let this be for a second, like this could be the last like good moment that we have. That's kind of what I'm reading into it. And this is what I like to call pillow talk. Like this is just like, you know, the new lovers that have just realized like, hey, we're a pretty good fit. What next? They're like, I don't know. Let's just enjoy this moment. Like, okay,
yeah.
You know,
I don't know about you, but that's, I mean, almost any day I wake up with my partner, I'm like, do we have to do other stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have to have jobs? This sucks. Anyways,
Cloud says, oh, but so they go back onto the high wind and they're not sure. Like at this point, like Cloud's like, did I just like disband our group? Like, cause he's like, go back to the ones you love.
Oops.
he's like, the meteor's going to hit the planet anytime now. Go back to your loved ones. And if you feel like coming back, like, thank you. If not, no hard feelings.
Right.
Very wise way to lead a team into combat. Don't bring the unwilling because they could just be a liability.
Yeah.
But
they're just here for a paycheck. They might not have your back when the shots start firing.
I call this the triumph of their reunion. Like this is the Earth's or Gaia's reunion, not Sephiroth's reunion. This is a reunion of the freedom fighters because they all come back and Cloud's like, all right, we've got to let go of Aerith's memory, like to do this. We've got to like fight for ourselves now. Like we can't do it for her anymore because like that's not enough. It's got to be for us. It's not for her. It's for us. Oh boy. Then Sid pulls the lever and the high wind goes into turbo mode, baby.
Is this what it's like the pilot is at like final level or whatever?
Yeah. He's fully leveled up pilot. So it's so charming.
And now we've got this like redesigned high wind that we fly in.
It's so cool. It goes from being a hot air balloon to a jet. It just loses a couple of pieces and it just gets like supercharged. Chocobo breeding took a lot of time, even with the W item glitch. So you got okay. The reason I wanted a gold chocobo was because I wanted to get Knights of the Round. That is the main advantage of getting the golden chocobo, which if you've never played, the gold chocobo can traverse any landscape and the ocean. It can go everywhere. It's your go everywhere button. To get a gold chocobo, first, you need to catch a good chocobo and a great chocobo.
Okay, I thought I did this, but like, just keep walking me through, and I'll see if I can find the point of disconnect where I screwed up and gave up.
Yeah, so a good chocobo, I mean, like, I don't have the specific locations where they can be found, but basically the quality of a chocobo can be determined by the monsters it appears with, which means, campers, you're only as good as the company you keep.
That would be helpful to know.
Choose your friends carefully. So a good chocobo, you breed it with a great chocobo, but first you want to level them up by feeding them nuts. I'm sorry, greens. You feed them greens to increase their stats. And that's where it gets expensive because we're going to need to do this quite a bit. And it's going to take a lot of greens and a lot of gil to do this. So you max out the good and the great chocobo stats. Then you max out their rank, which is done by racing them at Gold Saucer. So there's going to be a lot of chocobo racing at the Gold Saucer. So you're going to need to accumulate a lot of gil to fund your greens. And once they are, well, you don't need to max out their class. You can get them up to an S class if you want, but you only need to get them up to an A class to do the proper breeding maneuvers, which is stick it in the wet hole. That's the breeding maneuver. A good chocobo and a great chocobo, both at level A class, that will yield a mountain chocobo or a river chocobo. And you need to get one of each. Mountain chocobo is green, river chocobo is blue. Then you need to max out both of those birds. Give them all the greens until they have no effect, and then increase their class up to A or S. And when you're breeding chocobos, you need to give them a specific nut. It's the carob nut.
Okay.
Which is a rare nut, which you have to steal from goblins, I think. Or there's a specific monster that you have to steal the nut from. And there's also a Zeo nut.
Oh, wait. The carob nut comes from this little dragon. Or not a little, this red dragon that's on the snowy continent, but it only shows up in the grassy parts.
Okay.
I did all that. Yeah. I did up to that point.
Yeah, I'm remembering this.
And I think I did this good and great chocobo part. So and I don't know if I just had really bad RNG or what. I just kept breeding and was not getting what I thought I should get, which was a red or green chocobo. So I just gave up.
A green or blue chocobo. And then, so once you've got those, once you've got a blue and a green chocobo both maxed out, you breed that. And also, there's genders. You need to have the right genders to do all the breeding.
Yeah.
Okay. So good plus great equals mountain and river. And you can breed the good and great twice to get one of each if you're lucky. And what you do is you just save spam.
You gotta save scum that bad boy.
Save scum. I like
whatever you.
So mountain plus river chocobo equals a black chocobo. Then you gotta do all the same things. Give it all the greens until it can't eat anymore, and then you gotta race it until it's an A class, and then you breed a black chocobo with a wonderful chocobo, which can only be found on the northern continent, and it's accompanied by 2 of those rabbit monsters that you fight.
Yeah, okay. This is my problem. I think I was breeding a wonderful and a great chocobo.
Yeah. You want to breed the black chocobo with a wonderful chocobo.
That, I think, is where I screwed up.
And then you give it a Zeo nut, which can only be acquired by stealing from...
That's the goblin steal.
The goblin monsters. And that will yield a golden chocobo. Now, okay, the reason that it takes so much fucking gil to do this is the best greens that you can use to max out all of their stats, because certain greens only affect certain stats. Mm-hmm. There's intelligence, stamina, and speed. One green will just affect intelligence, one will do the other, one or the other. But there's one specific green, I don't remember what it's called, but it will do all 3 of them.
It's the mimic greens?
I think you're right, buddy. That green costs 5,000 gil alone, and you're going to need to use like a couple dozen to do this.
And it only comes from the Chocobo Sage, who lives in the middle of the mountains of the
He's in the northern continent.
Yeah.
And
only discoverable by just search with the high wind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I think Choco Billy might reference his existence.
I believe you're right.
But not tell you exactly where he is.
But to do that, I mean, it's just gonna, I mean, it's wild how much time it took, even just using the W item glitch to, I got a couple of the mimic greens, because also, campers, if you want to use that W item glitch, you can't just have one of the items that you're trying to duplicate, because if you use it, it'll be gone, and then you can't select it to then duplicate it. So you got to have a couple of them. What I'm getting at is I'm so over what this actually yields. It took so much time, but I did have fun actually in the racing segment. Like I would love a standalone Final Fantasy VII racing game.
Yeah,
like that should have happened. That should have been a standalone title on the PlayStation. It's just Chocobo Racing.
There is.
Oh,
yeah. There's it's a like bad Mario Kart adaptation.
Yeah,
and actually,
I did not know there was a Chocobo racing game, just a standalone.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Like Chocobo GP or something.
Huh.
And again, minor Rebirth spoiler, that the Chocobo racing in that is a much more refined version of this that is most akin to like Super NES or Nintendo 64 era Mario Kart.
Cool.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah. Is it multiplayer adjacent?
Ooh, it should be. That'd be cool.
I that's what I want. I want to be able to.
But the Chocobo GP game is the original version. I think is multiplayer. Then they remastered it and stuffed it with microtransactions within the last year or two.
Microtransactions are like the herpes of video games. Where I'm just like, sorry, man.
Yeah, it
like
sucks so bad.
Can't make out with you. Getting the gold Chocobo, that gives you access to every single spot on the map at this point. What that'll get you in terms of gameplay, first and foremost, Knights of the Round materia, summon materia. It is the most powerful summon. It is so good, and it's necessary to defeat the optional super bosses. Also, you can get Quadra Magic, which is going to use the same spell 4 times if you've used it.
Yeah, that's pretty out
dope.
of control.
And then there's also the HP MP swap materia, which is like literally like if you're maxing out your stats, that means you could have 9,999 MP and just 999 HP.
I've never have found a use for that one.
I think it's there for completionists.
Yeah.
And then there's also the mime materia, which is quite useful in terms of like, okay, so Cloud will cast Knights of the Round, and then Barrett will cast it if he uses mime. Great. But really what this did was I felt like a monster doing all of this, like this forced breeding.
Fully goblinized into,
I felt like Hojo. Like I was like, Cloud is to Chocobos as Hojo is to Red 13.
Right.
Where he's like, because Hojo was about to make Nanaki give it to Aerith.
Yeah.
Back in
this is slightly more natural. That you're breeding. Yeah, this is the way any cattle or horse breeder might breed. I would suspect. You're taking your strongest ones and just sitting them together. And sometimes they'll inseminate them themselves. That's ethically suspect. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but okay, like so. What this? I mean, this took me probably like 5 hours of gaming to get all of this done while using a glitch. So just for context, like back in the day, this was its own month of gaming.
And were you also doing the 3x boosting?
Yes. Oh my God. Especially for the Chocobo races. So, I'm going back and forth from the Chocobo Ranch and also you got to spend tens of thousands of gil to rent out stables for all of your Chocobo to stay in while you're doing all this breeding. At the Chocobo Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then I'm also going to the Gold Saucer to do the racing. I had a thought about Gold Saucer. I feel like if Gold Saucer was really as like fancy as it's presented as, it should have like a helipad or something for the Highwind to land on. Because like taking the cable car, that seems like peasant stuff. Yeah. I've got hundreds of thousands of gil at this point.
And that like reaching this cable car requires you walk through this slum town.
Yeah. It's just
like you're gonna have a lot of customers thinking twice, about how they're spending their time and money.
Gold Saucer, get your shit together. Okay. So here's the rewards that you get for beating Emerald Weapon is the Master Materias, which gives you access to all of the materias available besides Knights of the Round, I think.
I don't think you can do you not get a Master Summon?
Oh, just Master Green Materia, I think is what it gives you. Which is completely useless at this point.
All of it's pretty useless.
I don't think I had a single green materia equipped to anybody like near the end of the game. But okay, briefly talk about Ruby Weapon. Ruby Weapon is after the Medial incident. That's where you'll see this little red doodad sticking out of the sands in the desert surrounding Gold Saucer. If you fly the Highwind into it, then you're going to fight Ruby Weapon, the hardest boss in the game. Ruby Weapon has a lot of HP. I don't have the numbers, but like too much.
Yeah.
And he also has this like, much like the Midgar Zolom, he will just throw somebody out of your fight, like completely just like take them out of the fight, not kill them, knock them away, and they're no longer present, which means there's a little RNG in terms of getting the right person in front of him. The way that I've beat Ruby Weapon in the past is to use the Hades materia,
Interesting.
The Hades summon, which casts stop on whoever's being attacked by it, and stop miraculously works on Ruby Weapon. And then you can go to town on him while and he's got these tentacles that he shoves into the ground, and one will drain your MP and the other one will drain your HP. And there's a lot to the Ruby Weapon. There's like campers, if you want to fight Ruby Weapon, don't come to us for it, because it's just too much. And also the reward for defeating Ruby Weapon, it's a fucking gold chocobo.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
I already got one.
Sucks.
That sucks
so bad.
That sucks so bad.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, I knew what I was getting into, and I beat it, and there's like, I would say there was like maybe like a 10-second feeling of like happiness.
Right.
And then poof, it's gone.
Same with me in the Emerald Weapon. I feel like I took a picture of it and put it on Instagram, and that was like, yay.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like it's a challenge for challenge's sake.
Yeah. If your stables are full, do you not get your gold chocobo? Or does
you
it
cannot
ask you to get
breed
rid of one,
if your stables are full. You're gonna have to release one. They won't let you breed them if there are no open stalls.
Yeah.
So you gotta after you've done some of the breeding, then you'll let the good one go, or the great one. The first two that you bred, like get rid of them. They're dead weight at this point. Man, I was just furious.
Yeah.
It's time to go to the Northern Crater. Like the only thing else that I can think of, unless you've got something else that you want to cover, like the main thing is just getting Cloud's ultimate level 4 limit break, which is going through the battle square.
Yeah. We've already kind of talked about the battle square a little bit anyway.
I'm good on that.
So I guess I'll just briefly talk about just some of the extra side things you can do. One of which I don't think I think I left the video that had the footage of the flashback where you get
God, I forgot about
Zach's story fleshed out.
Yes.
I don't really have too much to add to what we already discussed about it in last week's episode about Last Order, where they sort of retcon it and decide this is the canonical way we're going to tell this story, other than what I also said about Vincent's story and Lucretia's waterfall, that the way the flashbacks are told is everything you need to understand the story of Final Fantasy VII, and every character's motivation and all that. It's in these backstories, including Zach. Is it told detail for detail? No, there's a little bit of subtext you need to read, but
Any good book is going to give you the same challenge.
Yeah, you can definitely understand that, after the Nibelheim incident, they were captured, put in these vats, and they escaped. Zack died, Cloud got away, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And it's told in, it's got a little bit more detail fleshed out and dialogue than Vincent's, but it's still that similar, like, it's a lot of visual information.
That's right.
Yeah, over
That's right.
the dialogue.
Apparently, while they were you find this out in the Shinra Mansion basement where you get this selective optional cinematic. What I like is that while Zack and Cloud were in these like tubes with like full of Mako and being experimented on, Zack apparently was communicating to Cloud by scratching like on the inside of his tube.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically was like, we're gonna break out at mealtime.
Yeah.
He scratched that into the glass with his fingernail, I guess.
Yeah.
A weird little detail that you can totally miss unless you check the tubes in the mansion. It's wild.
Yeah. There's so much good little nuggets.
It's great.
That's why this is just like, this is the IP that Square just keeps digging from, is because they just built such a robust world. And like, people will argue, oh no, 6 is a little better or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. This is tough to beat in terms of world building out the gate, and little details of the world that were there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Odyssey of video games. This is like the story that defined what stories are for video games.
Yeah. And like Final Fantasy VI is great, but it's just, there's just a few things that like they just didn't have the resources to flesh out as well as they did in this one.
I've heard some disturbing rumors of a Final Fantasy VI remake.
We don't need to remake everything. It's fine.
I agree.
Like, we have the pixel remasters. That's, for me, that's the canonical remakes or whatever remasters of those games. Last couple, like, just little cleanup things
before
you can do,
we head into the final dungeon.
Did you go back to Midgar at all with the Sector 5 key?
Oh, yeah. You get the Sector 5 key by talking to the dude in the front.
Yeah.
And he tells you that you need a Sector 5 key. Then you go to the bone graveyard.
Yeah. I kept trying to do this on my own. Because that was one of the few side quests I wanted to finish because I knew it was easy.
Yeah.
And I tried doing it on my own with, like, when you go back to the Bone Village, they can find it. But I don't know if they'll look at it, because I just did it like 3 or 4 times and I just kept not getting the Sector 5 key. Eventually I just looked up, like, okay.
You got to look for a good item, I think.
I don't know. I was like, which pixel do I just have them dig at? And I got it. And then you go back, and the reason I think it's worth mentioning is that it's got this nice, I'll call it like a rhyme with Advent children, that when you return to the church, I couldn't queue up my footage because we got some technological problems going on this week. But anyway, if you go back to the Sector 5 church, you'll see Aerith's ghost there, or just like a vision, like Cloud's just sort of like remembering her there. And it'll just kind of flash for a second and disappear. And then there's 2 children playing in the flowers that are like, where'd the flower girl go?
She's so pretty.
Yeah, and it's just like to me, that's like just a nice little rhyme that Advent Children does.
Yeah.
That movie ends back in the church, and it's become this baptismal font to cure the geostigma.
Yeah.
And Aerith's ghost like waves you off and it's like, you've got it from here, Cloud.
That's right.
Other than that, I went to Aerith's house and just wandered around. And I love, just going to say this just because it's on the screen as I'm talking about this. Cloud says, looks like I can sleep here. And the options are yes or can't sleep right now. I just said, don't want to sleep.
Yeah.
And I just thought that phrasing was really interesting. Like, you're back in Aerith's house and he's like, I don't know. I don't want to sleep here. This feels too weird. But then you can go to Walmart and you could find, I think it's Tifa's top weapon, the God Hand.
The God Hand. Yeah. That's in the vending machine.
Yeah.
That's in the little yurt with the Gatling gun.
Yeah.
What a fun little area.
And then I did finish off the Ultima weapon just to get Cloud's Ultima weapon, his best weapon, which I don't even know if I used. Holy moly, did this take me a long time.
Yeah, just chasing ultimate. Is it ultimate weapon or Ultima weapon? Ultima weapon.
I don't remember.
I think it's Ultima weapon.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just chasing this big dragon across the map, and it's like you hit it, and Sid goes, "Fuck, that thing's strong," or something along those lines. And you just got to keep hitting it until it starts to like hover over a spot. Then you'll go and fight. You can steal something from it every fight too.
God dang.
I know, but who cares, man?
Right. Yeah, who needs this crap? I honestly, you know what? I was playing this on my birthday the other day to finish the game, and I was just kind of high and really enjoying like just taking the map in on the Highwind.
Oh, sure.
So I was just kind of like, whatever, dude. And the reason I do like want to bring it up is I think it almost like made this game feel like it's like this diorama toy box.
Yes.
You know,
I think of that a lot as like, this is like, it's like, that's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah. Diorama toy, a sandbox game kind of thing. Not in the modern sense, but like it's like a Zen garden that you've got that you can play with. It's this little contained area that's supposed to represent something much larger than what it is.
Mm-hmm. And just spending this much time flying around in it, like really brought that home for me. And like understanding how huge they made it feel with so little, right? With like so little assets, such low polygon count, etc. And then getting to compare that to Rebirth of like, they built this huge world now from this little toy box, sandbox that, I thought was so big. And probably lots of people have this review about Remake and Rebirth of like, wow, they really like built the thing that I was imagining, out of this tiny little thing that they had made in the first place.
Yeah, they filled in the blanks and then they gave it a new coat of paint. And, and it's nice and shiny and new and big and fancy and just impressive. This original like world map was the first of its kind for me. I had never played a game that offered a world this large and explorable, and like I think the closest I'd come was playing Secret of Mana at that point, which was like very cute compared to this. But like the idea of like, just briefly speak about Secret of Mana, what kind of helped me feel that sense of scale of the world was the cannon travel, right? You get blasted into the air, and then later when you get the white dragon that lets you fly everywhere. But like you see this world and you're like, oh, that's Poto's village. That's where I started. Oh, there's, that
was my first
the dwarf
experience
village
with this as well.
Yeah. It was just like very, very effective in relaying that sense of scale.
Yeah. Last little detail about the hunt for the ultimate weapon is that I think is Shadow Flare the ultimate enemy skill?
That's right. And only one person gets to learn it.
You get like one shot at it.
Yep.
That it's a one character attack that it uses as it's dying.
Yes.
And if it
hits
the wrong character, you miss it.
Yep.
If it KOs them,
I think you still get it.
I don't remember. I missed it, and I was just like, "Screw this crap!
Yeah,
I'm over this."
It's powerful, but you've got better stuff at this point.
Yeah. So I finished it off, and then I straight up skipped that. It opens a new area.
Yeah, the ancient forest, and you can get another one of Cloud's swords, the Ragnarok or the Apocalypse.
That's the triple growth. So if you're trying to max out your stats, you're gonna want that.
Yeah.
But me, I'm beelining for Sephiroth.
Yeah,
at this point.
I remember playing it. My last like full playthrough of Final Fantasy VII. I did the work because I put in the effort because that triple growth sword makes it so you can master your materia well 3 times as fast. And the place that you're gonna want to level up your materia is the final dungeon.
Yeah.
There's that one
specific
magic
room.
Pot. That's right. The
magic pots and the bouncing red balls.
That's right.
You know what? I didn't even do that this playthrough. I just remember it so well.
I was so powerful at this point. I did not worry about anything. It's like most modern games have taken a lot of cues from this. in the sense of like, oh, there's like so much optional weaponry and magic and gear that will make the end boss like seem adorable in comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty negligible fight for me once I finally got there, but I don't know.
Let's dive into the crater.
I'll just say bottom line is not the best final dungeon design I've ever encountered.
It looks like shit.
It looks pretty bad. Let's be real.
The pre-render backgrounds are muddier than ever.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a lot of unnecessary like wandering around in this that I thought was like, the pacing in Final Fantasy VII is immaculate
until
except when it isn't. And this is one of the worst like segments of the game, unfortunately.
It's a real bummer.
So
lots of just aimless wandering, guessing like, is this a platform I can jump on? Is this one I can jump off of?
Yeah.
Is that a place I need to go through?
And there's like, well, okay, so the high wind flies over the crater, and the party is able to descend into it. The branching paths, the selectable parties that you can have, like, okay, campers, if you've been leveling up and you've been doing your diligence, you don't need to worry about any of this. Just stick with your best party members.
That's what I did.
Don't worry about everyone else. You don't need them.
I was second guessing myself here and there. Like, am I going to have to use them? I think Final Fantasy VI did a better job of this. You go into the final dungeon, it says, make 3 parties and hit Y to swap between them or whatever it is.
What this does in an effective way is what Advent Children, which we'll talk about next week, successfully carries on, which is it's building up that Cloud cannot do this alone. Only through the power of love and friendship and camaraderie are you able to defeat the ultimate evil. And like they do that most effectively with like, well, we'll get to it next week, but the Bahamut Sin fight as they propel Cloud up and up and up and up and up. That is what this is starting. Like that's the theme of only through friendship and teamwork can we accomplish our goals. But so the branching paths, there gets to a point in the dungeon that you cannot return to the surface. And that is that's where you have to be like, okay, I'm done playing Final Fantasy VII. Let's beat this game. Man, okay. How do we do this? So I'm going to skip some of the dumb drudging through this dungeon stuff, but like,
I mean,
because like what it is like your characters, depending on what characters you send down, what paths will find different items, not essential items, just like, hey, I found a mega elixir. Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I got a lot of sources.
Yeah.
And I just blasted them all into my final party. I was like, screw this. I don't care. Just use them all right now.
But when you finally get to the point where it's like, okay, it's time to fight Sephiroth, Cloud says, let's mosey.
Let's mosey. The all-timer, his all-time one-liner. I was so bummed that I was capturing the footage of us. I like wasn't ready for it. It's like I knew he says it, but I wasn't. I didn't know it was right there, and I just kind of blasted through. I was like, "Oh no, I missed it! The line."
I just think of it like in my best like John Wayne impression. Like, let's mosey.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, so let's get to this fight. The first fight of
fights are really
several fights
here.
We're gonna first fight Genova, which is like you're jumping from floating rock to floating rock onto. It's like it looks like a floating quartz Mako island, which this is like they are. Genova looks like a kind of a jellyfish egg sac. It's hard to describe. What it
very vaginal in the front of its design.
I'll take your word for it.
It looks it looks sort of like the
the vulva.
The vulva with a giant egg sac attached to its back.
I wish the clit was that big.
And some tentacles.
So you fight Genova. It's a pretty simple fight. I mean, like I hate to like demean these like very important like thematic fights, but like you fight Genova, you kill Genova.
Yeah.
No biggie. But then the team is falling and falling and falling, and we encounter Sephiroth, sort of.
Yes.
And this is where I believe like we see that like Sephiroth is literally like he has commandeered Holy.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you're fighting Sephiroth in front of Holy, which is surrounded by like corrupted like material that's like holding it in place. That's the way I
like Malice
this.
from Zelda.
Yes, exactly. Oh God, let's talk about that game again.
Yeah. This was my first playthrough that really made sense to me. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm experiencing.
That this is Holy.
Yeah, and that's like his Malice.
Yeah.
You know, that he's holding
color.
it and containing it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see this also as like, okay, so the yin and yang are pretty prevalent throughout Final Fantasy VII as well. It's like Cloud is to Sephiroth, as Holy is to Meteor, and Holy like literally looks kind of like Meteor right now.
Yeah,
and that's like the two-sided blade where it's like both sides cut, but it depends on who's holding the blade, and that's who gets cut. Sephiroth is like he's in full like demigod mode right now, where he's just like controlling every team member. He's holding them up and like using the force basically. And the fight with does it start off with Bizarro Sephiroth, or is that the second form? You fight a couple forms of
Bizarro Sephiroth, then Safer Sephiroth.
Safer. What does that mean?
I'm guessing that's a mistranslation, that it's supposed to be akin to like Seraph Sephiroth.
What is a Seraph?
Like some type of angel.
Oh, okay, makes sense. One-winged angel.
Yeah, I think that's my best guess.
Yeah,
what's going on there?
Let's scrub ahead in the footage a little bit to see this.
Yeah, we'll find our way. Yeah, I don't know where like I said, the footage is a little tricky today because I'm dealing with some broken cables. But
yeah, Camp Counselor Michael Mayonnaise, we would love our AV studio back if you could provide that.
The question: Did you understand the concept of this fight?
The concept of this fight,
like what exactly was I supposed to be doing?
Okay. So there's there's several different pieces of Sephiroth that you can select to fight. I want to talk about the character design here for Bizarro Sephiroth, because there's two heads. One seemingly Sephiroth says, the other Genova. Like, what's going on?
Oh yeah. There's like a core that you can't damage.
Yeah, you need to destroy one of the heads
that I don't quite understand.
I just don't understand this character design at all.
Yeah, sometimes I think they just like kind of ball out, and but why there's two versions of him is a little difficult to understand.
It reminds me of Kefka's final fight.
Right.
Like
that one makes a little more sense.
Yeah. That one, that's what I'm saying. Is like that makes sense. This doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, because the Kefka thing, there's the 3 statues that are like personified in this tiered, just massive weird monster he's become, and then on top is something that looks more like the actual character Kefka. This is like 2 Sephiroths on top of each other.
Well, we did have the Genova Sephiroth and then Sephiroth, so maybe this is the combination of them.
Like the real Sephiroth is the top one, and the monster Genova Sephiroth is what it's attached to. But the mechanics of the fight never really made sense to me. That like it, if you break
in terms of switching
piece,
from parties,
you could switch parties, and I had a party with no material. That, and then it would like once you did switch parties, it'd say try switching parties once you've destroyed a piece, and I just did that a bunch of times, and eventually it just died.
It's useless tips there, because you don't need to switch parties. They're just saying that to kind of spread the distribution of damage among your classes, so that you're not just gonna get your main party walloped.
Okay.
I don't know.
I had no idea.
This was really
Like, because I just feel like I was bashing the crap out of this thing and it wasn't dying. So I was like, maybe I do need to switch back and forth.
No, you don't need
I thought maybe like I'm only attacking certain sides of it with each party. It was messy. It took me a minute.
I would call this a very anticlimactic boss fight.
Yeah.
And that's a shame considering Sephiroth is like one of the greatest villains in video game history. And like they just done him a little, I don't know. I blame the times more than I blame the game makers.
Mm-hmm.
But
final bosses, I think, are just really hard to make conceptually good.
Yeah, like going back to like well, the Dark Beast Ganon in Breath of the Wild or whatever.
I mean, most of the games we've talked about, like,
and bosses are just kind of like,
yeah.
Although you know what, props to Andross.
That's the one I was gonna say. Like
to Andross,
conceptually very well done. Difficulty wise, once you've done it, it's like,
Yeah.
And I think Final Fantasy VI, bringing that example back, is also pretty well done.
You know what? No, I can't believe I didn't think of this. King K. Rool, the greatest end boss fight.
I mean, that was challenging. Whatever. Anyway, like, yeah, you do this fight, and I do like that. Like, you get a unique soundtrack for it.
One Winged Angel.
Well, even this one has its own song.
Oh,
the
okay.
Bizarro fight. Then after it's defeated, you hear like the boss destruction noise, and I think it just kind of hangs for a while. But we go right to the final safer Sephiroth fight. And that's when One Winged Angel drops. So it's like the music is heightened. Like you already have this cool final boss music, and then all of a sudden, the first time we've heard actual vocal samples for one in our music in the game.
Amazing recording.
And I mean, it's not like I listen to the soundtrack of this game a lot.
Yeah.
This is not one I go to. This was contextual song that like I'm not just like vibing to One Winged Angel.
Right. Yeah.
But
you're not headbanging while driving.
Yeah, the more like emotional like songs, like Aerith's theme, Tifa's theme, the Anxiety Nibelheim theme.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones I'm like just put them on the background and vibe, you know. But we respect to that song where it's due. Anyway, on to that fight here.
So the One Winged Angel. Josh, can you give me a little context as to what that means and like why that's important?
We talked about it a few episodes back, I believe, that for one, Crisis Core introduced this concept of like the degradation of soldiers who have received this like Mako Genova transfusion that it represents initially through the form of like they'll sprout a single wing. And then again, the writers of Xenogears did a little bit of scenario work in Final Fantasy VII, I believe, and they expanded a lot to be this idea of like the need for companionship, the need for relationship, for like humanity, the essence of humanity to exist or play out or whatever. And if like you only have one wing, you're not fully functional as, a being, I guess.
Sure.
So in Sephiroth, it could be kind of representational of, in essence, like his loneliness in some way.
Yeah.
Of being the one, like, weird experiment Genova clone from birth. But the way it's shown in the Final Fantasy VII world and compilation the most is the degradation of the soldier project. But now there's also in the remake series, there's white wings versus black wings, and that is one, it's like I don't totally understand it, and two, it's a little spoiler for Rebirth to go too much further. So
I think thinking about it literally, like if you had a one-winged animal, it would just be flying in circles. And, like if you're flying in circles, you can't fly in a formation with other animals. Or like, birds, like, obviously birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
2 wings, pretty important for birds. I see the villains, evil things are often portrayed as asymmetrical in popular culture.
Yeah.
And, Sephiroth being an incomplete emotion. Like, if if we're to believe that Sephiroth went through the same kind of like self-realization that Cloud did in the live stream, and he came out with the wrong conclusions as it is. It seems like if Cloud were to burst, if Cloud were to sprout wings, he would have two. Like, because he has fully realized himself as a complete human being, whereas Sephiroth is blocked by his malice or his hatred or his bitterness or all of the above, or by the Genova corruption. I don't know. That's just it's an interesting detail that the first time I played this game, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why is he what? Like, I just did not understand.
Another one of those things I'd love to ask the devs. Like, did you think symbolically about this very deeply, or was it just like, that's some cool, weird stuff to do?
Also, I mean, to think about, like, literally, Satan is a fallen angel.
Yeah.
In Christian mythology, and the idea, like, oh, maybe you lose a wing and then you can't fly, so therefore you're a fallen angel. I don't know. There's a lot to bring out. Sephiroth does.
I was just gonna say, so the supernova attack is playing on the visual feed right now. And what do you think about this?
So we're in the same solar system?
It's so bizarre.
Because we see Pluto, Jupiter, like Saturn. Like, what the fuck is going on?
It'd be one thing if, like, they did these visual models of all the other planets, but the fact that they label them is so bizarre. It's
bizarro.
And I think I talked about this in the Last Order episode about, like, when does damage matter in this universe? Because you see this supernova destroy the entire solar system and the sun.
Yeah.
And the sun expands to destroy Mercury and Venus. And now it's at the core of the planet where you are, and you take like 1,000 damage.
I love the spectacle of this.
Oh, it's fun.
I hate the rationality behind it. Also, I did not get to see this in my fight because I used Knights of the Round and immediately killed him.
That's very funny. You know what I actually did think when I was playing it is they're in the live stream and Sephiroth has a lot of control over the live stream. This could be like psychic damage that he's casting. Like, this could all be in their minds.
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that.
That's the only way I could justify. I mean, again, I think as devs, they were just like, this is cool spectacle. Let's go for it. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a way you can retcon it to make sense.
You know what? I'm on board, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay. We defeat.
I think I finished him off with a Meteor Rain, actually.
Oh, nice.
He cast
kind of
Supernova,
appropriate, isn't it?
And then I hit him with Meteor Rain, and I think that was the end of the fight.
So you didn't get Omni Slash?
No. I didn't mess with all that.
Oh, okay.
In fact,
I'm going to hold something on reserve until we get to it. But
yeah.
Okay. So you defeat one-winged angel Sephiroth. Safer Sephiroth?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, this is great. Like, just watching his death animation. It's this is classic Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry, just Final Fantasy in general.
Yeah. Like
the destruction of a massive enemy, and like it's like they're being like frozen in time, and then it's like slowly breaking down as if like I think of it as like a photo fading in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like dissolving, which is really, and this looks great. This is still effective even with these silly polygons. Like it looks, I mean, thematically it works so well. And for future installments in this series of the series known as Final Fantasy VII at this point, it makes sense that he was not fully destroyed. We'll get to that in next week's episode. But let's watch this. Let's watch what happens here. We got everybody beat Sephiroth, and they're just kind of like, oh, what? Are we good? I like Yuffie. She's the one that's just like taking advantage of a little time off. She's just,
this
like,
is
fully on her back.
That's another detail that I was like coming back to this after Rebirth and seeing how well Yuffie's character is fleshed out physically and verbally. Like this makes total sense. That she's just like, oh, geez, guys.
Yeah. She's just like this scrawny little Chinese girl, you know?
Yeah.
Like she's like rail thin and just like she's doing a lot of work for a little lady.
So that's very in character for her, the way they've fleshed her out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cloud gets this little glitch as everybody's like, all right, let's mosey back. That something's still going on.
Yeah. He can still smell Sephiroth. He says Sephiroth is still here. Oh, man. We get to see one of the hottest things in video game history. We get to see topless Sephiroth.
Yeah, that's where we get the real twink action. As Cloud swims back to the core of the planet.
I'm going back in.
This is done very abstractly, very vague. I think of this as like, it's hard to like square this with what we're going to talk about in Advent Children next week.
Yeah.
Like Sephiroth survives because his memory survived. But this feels like Cloud killing the memory is the idea of what. So it doesn't. I don't know.
I think I don't. I mean, maybe I'm talking out of class, but like I think they meant for this to just be the end of the story. Like
right. They didn't have plans for sequel. They didn't know how big.
They did not think they were going to make a full length feature film.
Yeah.
8 years later. Okay. Here's what I want to talk about. Most people who play this.
Oh, you can watch the footage and maybe you're going to say what happens, but go ahead.
Most of the time when you play this, you get Omni Slash as just a default attack to defeat Sephiroth. But if Cloud is equipped with counter and Sephiroth hits him first, Cloud will just hit him and that's it.
And that's exactly what happened to me.
That's happened to me too.
I was so mad. So now I have this trash footage of how I finished the game by accidentally countering him for 700 damage, and that's the end of the game.
Like it's
roll credits.
I was like, did I do something wrong?
Oh, I was so mad.
Or as I've heard it said before, have I done something to offend you?
For me, it was like as Sephiroth was attacking me, I was realizing I was like, oh no.
This character model for Cloud is the best looking in the game. Like, cause I don't know, even the quality of his like FMV model changes throughout, and this is just A+ Cloud here. He looks so good. I just wish Sephiroth was topless the entire game.
Yeah, I could have used more of that.
See more of them evil nipples.
Yeah. And so this begins the process of like, okay, this is the final piece, I guess, of freeing Holy.
Yeah.
And
Cloud reaches out to this expanding light, and what we assume is Aerith's hand is going for his, but no, it's Tifa, but it was a different hand. Because Tifa's wearing those gloves. We did not see gloves on that hand that was reaching out, and it was Aerith. Come on, but there's no mystery here.
Yeah, and
get some more jiggle physics on Tifa.
Always need more of that.
So now, like after Cloud has defeated Sephiroth, Tifa's she's reaching out to save him from the crumbling infrastructure, and now they're like, they're just like holding on for dear life because they might. Oh no, we might fall into the life stream again. And then maybe they could work through some other trauma that they haven't addressed. I don't know how the live stream works if you're a repeat visitor.
You just keep getting free therapy out of it.
Yeah, but with Sephiroth defeated, Holy is summoned. And I love so we get this great glimpse of Meteor like right over Midgar. Like it's just like it's like 0 hour, like it is 10 seconds to midnight kind of thing. And Meteor is like so evil and powerful. There's these like fire tornadoes that have started like coming off of it, but it's going into Midgar, and like the destruction of Midgar that we will see in Advent Children makes sense now that we see what actually happened. But right now it's just like the whole group, the crew is just like stuck in the bottom of the crater. But then our intrepid pilot, who has been leveling up this entire time, he comes and saves the day.
Heck yeah, he does. And I'm going to mention this here because I think we might have already passed it. Is I like that, like, they, after you defeat Sephiroth, there's this attitude of like,
Guess we're gonna
That's
die
it.
now.
well, it's just kind of like, it's up to the planet. What happens now? We
That-
did everything we could.
That's right. That's
and we're just
exactly
going to
right.
mosey back and see what happens.
But then the Highwind, after they all get in the Highwind just gets gooshed out by the life stream. And this is where we get to see super extra turbo Highwind.
Yeah.
Love it. There's so many modes installed into this thing. It's so great.
And that there's a single lever on the Highwind that somebody can accidentally pull and just jettison half of the airship. Just like throw people overboard.
Yeah.
The part with like the swirling tornadoes and stuff are lead up to that. Is I love this like pan into a little girl in Calm.
Not Marlene?
I doubt it. It's complicated. Because why would she be in Calm? It's very confusing. I don't know if it's Marlene or not.
I mean, Elmira and Marlene were not at their house.
But like looking up and be like, oh, it's the end of the world. And everybody's just like looking out their windows at the end of the world is just fascinating.
I would do that.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, campers, I got caught in a tornado last week. I was driving home and the tornado hit ground about 5 miles away from where I was driving.
Phew.
And the funniest thing is that like I wasn't like scared, not like bragging, but like I was more just like, come on, like is this how I'm gonna die?
Yeah,
like I was just like a little bit pissed off. I felt very much a kinship with how the people of Midgar might have felt as they're watching their city get ravaged by electrical fire tornadoes coming off of a 10-mile wide meteor that's just like within like spitting distance of the top. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't die, but I was just like, come on.
Yeah.
But then Holy comes at Meteor. And like Holy is like, it's just this like blue, green, white flat. It's like a Kamehameha kind of, just like a blast. That is like, it's acting as a barrier from Meteor's advances, but then Meteor busts through it and you're like, oh, like maybe we didn't pray hard enough. I don't know.
We didn't send Goku enough of our energy.
Man, did you see the Saudi Arabia is going to be opening a Dragon Ball theme park?
Dude, it's so weird.
We should go to Saudi Arabia.
So weird.
Let's go, buddy. We'll do a Camp Video Games live for the Prince.
But now that like the meteors broken through Holy, everybody's giving up a little bit of hope.
We find out that Kate Sith is actually kind of a pretty useful community organizer, and that he instructed the people of Midgard to take shelter in the slums instead of
up on the
where
place.
else would they go? I don't know. But that if they're in the slums, that means they're under a protective plate. Hey,
yep.
Class system for the win.
Yep. It's like it's like a little ambiguous about whether Holy's working or not.
Yeah.
And then we get basically like the whole life stream comes to join Holy.
Yeah. This beautiful green it looks like a creeping vine of energy that makes its way over to the fracas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that last little kick that the meteor needed before it is successful in its mission of destruction.
Yeah, it's almost like Holy is like the power of the ancients of the Cetra, and I don't know, like this is the life stream deciding like, oh, this woman who like summoned this power, it's almost like she's convinced the planet to join forces with her effort to protect against Meteor, to protect humanity's remaining existence. Like it's like almost like the planet's like, look, you gotta, this Midgar thing, it's gotta go.
Yes.
Everything it represents has gotta go, but I'm down with protecting the rest of humanity.
Well, I think this might be answering a question I posed earlier. It's like, what would happen if someone else had cast Holy?
Mm-hmm.
You would just have that first wave of defense against Meteor. because of Aerith's influence, that's why we get the full shebang to repel Meteor. And you know, it's just like, I mean, this looks like the end fight for an Avengers movie or something. It's just like the big blue and green and red lights all deciding which is the most powerful color. And you know, ironically, these are the colors of our materia.
Yes, it is.
Even more strange, Meteor, which was summoned, is red.
Yeah. And love, like the last thing we get is the first shot of the game of Aerith looking up through green glowing light, and smash cut to 500 years later without anything being resolved. Just the peak climax of this crash and this fight of the planet. We don't know how our characters panned out. We don't know it. Just roll credits.
But we do get it. We get a solid answer because after the credits play through and like, you know, hey, big props to everybody that worked on this game. Thanks for the hard work. You did good. But what next is we get to see, hey, Nanaki got laid.
Yeah, somehow. We don't really know the logic of how this happened, but once we get to the end of the credits, we get that last cutscene we've, I believe, referenced before. Oops, I have my footage up on YouTube, and apparently my controller disconnected because I just hung out and vibed to the credits for too long.
You're crying.
I thought that was where the cutscene came in.
He was crying and holding onto his Aerith body pillow.
Note the last special thanks is Brady Games. So they did plan for people to get that gosh darn games guide.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 500 years later.
500 years later. So now Nanaki, he's like middle-aged, I guess. I don't know what like their lifespan is.
He should be dead.
He was like 40 something and they said he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Which means that like his lifespan is like 3 times that of a human thereabouts. So nah, he should be dead. Or he's like at the very end of his life and he's like, hey kids, before I die, I should probably show you what daddy did back in the day.
200 years later would have been a little more apt.
Why wasn't it 777 years ago? Come on. But yeah, so Nanaki and 2 cubs they're climbing the mountain, which is this where no, maybe I'm mistaking something, but we see this scene get a glow up for Advent Children. Which we'll talk about next week. There's some birds that we've never seen before in the game flying. They're like cool looking geese, but then we get to see Midgar, and nature has overtaken Midgar. It's this is that Breath of the Wild good where it's like we've got the destroyed city in this that's now been reclaimed by nature.
And what's fun is like it's close to the shot where the logo came in at the beginning of the game. And it was just this dark, just gross industrial city.
Yes.
And like the exact same spot, we get that same logo just bam, hitting it. I don't know. Fantastic ending.
Yes.
It like, again, it does more for me as an adult than it did as a child.
Absolutely.
I think as a child, I was like, but what happened to all of them?
Yeah, I know. Did Cloud and Tooth get married?
Yeah. And now I'm like, oh no, that's a perfect ending.
Yeah, it's It's a ballsy decision too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of players might have picked up on what the story was doing by withholding the human element and just saying, no, the human element is what got us into the mess for the first place.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the natural world, baby.
This is a story about nature surviving, not your friends, you know?
Yeah. Well, campers, before we wrap up this very extended discussion of Final Fantasy VII, Junior Counselor Josh mentioned earlier in this discussion that he had a bit of a birthday this week when he was playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this on mic, but I got you a little something, buddy.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. It was my birthday 3 days ago. We're recording this one like right before it comes out. While you're doing whatever you're doing here, I'll note that this is the last one we're recording, but it's not the last episode on Final Fantasy VII. We recorded the Advent Children episode right after it played in American theaters, and we saw it in the theater in February. So there's one more episode in this series, but this is the end of our real-time discussion of Final Fantasy VII.
I'm walking away from my mic.
Okay. I think your mic will reach, but I'll No, you did not. No, you did not. Oh my God. I wish we had a camera. Is this from your set? Did you open? So Sean has a set of all the original characters. I don't know where it came from, but they're little plastic figures of all the characters.
Well,
and it appears
not
he
all
has
the characters.
busted it open to bring me the Aerith with her staff character.
I got you, your little waifu, buddy.
I've officially become a otaku weebo because this will live in my living room now somewhere.
That's right, buddy.
I might even put it like on my bookshelf, so it's just like a true YouTube nerd. When I'm streaming and I'm on camera at the beginning, you can see my equivalent of a Funko Pop back there.
And for those curious, it's from the Bandai original release of the Final Fantasy VII characters. They came out with Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, and Aerith, and a chocobo and a frog for some reason. But I had opened it years ago.
Oh, okay.
And
so you didn't.
No, I mean, and also
decrease its sale value or anything.
Well, I would never sell it. Like this is also the second set of these figures that I've had before, and I gave the first one to a girl I really liked a while ago, and I don't regret it because she's still a friend, but yeah, Final Fantasy VII, very important game, both to me personally and to the world financially. And it's been a joy. It's been a long time coming. We've been working our way through this, and I'm very glad to be able to put an exclamation point at the end of this this run-on sentence.
Yeah. I feel like almost everything I have to say has been said as best as I can extemporaneously put it out there. Unless maybe I'd come up with a little more if I did a 10,000 word essay like I did about The Sopranos a few years ago.
That's right.
Like,
check it out. Carl's
it's all
Manager.
here. Yeah, go to the Carl's Manager YouTube and check that out. I am thinking I might, once I finish Rebirth, maybe I'll do like a riff stream that we could release on here for people who want that spoiled, or I might write something. Don't hold me to that, but maybe we'll do something like that for the podcast, and it'd be just me because Sean's not played it. I just thought about that the other day. We'll see.
It's our podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
So if we do, it'll just show up in the stream. Maybe after after the next series we do, or I don't know. We'll see.
But campers, if you liked this, if you stuck through,
God, you better if you're this far.
You have officially listened to a day's worth of Final Fantasy VII content, and you know what? You're welcome.
Yeah. We do this for you.
I'm very sorry.
No, I'm like, it's like, I don't know. It's a bit of a dream come true to have somebody who wants to talk about something this important to me, but like niche, as it is to me. That sentence came out
right. No, I follow you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like to be able to have that conversation with somebody in such an extended form, even if nobody listens to this, is worthwhile to me. Sharing
these episodes with our fellow with our campers, that's just a bonus. This is the real joy is just producing this with a friend.
Right.
And you know what Final Fantasy VII teaches us? Power of friendship.
Yeah. And destroy your corporate overlords.
Yeah.
Kill
And
your masters.
Speaking of corporate overlords, if you're a corporate overlord, patreon.com/campvideogames, for $5 a month, you can listen to commentary over every single episode of the Legend of Zelda cartoon series from 1989, and way more. You get to watch Junior Counselor Josh play his way through Star Fox 64.
Yeah, I've got to
Donkey
update
Kong.
those.
Did you do Donkey Kong Country?
Some of them I don't think are up to date.
Well,
but I'll get it all up to date.
the way you
within the
can
next
find
week or
out
two.
if it's up to date is by $5 a month. Patreon.com.
I gotta get some posts and playlists organized for that, but I'll get them up to date soon.
Patreon.com/Camp Video Games. Thank you so much to our subscribers. Please tell your friends about Camp Video Games. We're always looking for new campers here. And I think we've talked enough today.
Yeah, except for the final 2 hours about Advent Children that'll be out next week.
Oh, yeah. You'll love it. Trust me.
Yeah.
You're going to like the way it looks.
Peace out, campers.
Bye.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram @campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.